My 28M girlfriend, 30F, got extremely upset because I didn't want to take a shower with her. I think she might be depressed again, but I don't know how to bring it up. My girlfriend and I have not been speaking to each other for 3 days now due to an argument. I am not sure if I was the one that did something wrong or if it is an underlying issue manifesting into anger at something, that I think, is quite dumb. In the beginning of our relationship, my GF and I would occasionally shower together. It was fun, we'd take turns soaping each other's backs, playing with the water, etc. Over time, this turned into us taking a shower together every single day. Yes, it was fun when we did it on occasion, but in my opinion every day is just too much. We like to take showers with completely different water temperatures. Our shower isn't really that big, she takes forever to rinse out her hair while I stand in the cold. If I don't get in the shower quickly enough, my GF starts crying because she misses me. So, I drop what I was doing and hop in the shower to comfort her. Another time I was playing the piano and couldn't hear her calling for me from the shower, and she got mad. About a year ago, while in the shower together, my GF asked me, "Do you like taking a shower together all the time?" Before I could answer, she says, "If you say no, I'm going to be really sad." You're not allowed to say no. Well, WTF, why bother asking me if there's only one correct answer? Now it's been like 1.5 years of us taking showers together every damn day and me not having a choice in the matter. It was fun back when we did it on occasion, but now it just feels normal and boring, almost like a chore. So, the other day we got into an argument about something unrelated. At the end of the day we sort of make up, but my feelings were still hurt. I was still sad and I did not want to take a shower with her. She takes a shower by herself, doesn't talk to me, cries, and makes me sleep on the couch. The next day we did not talk at all, but in the evening she says she missed me and we had a nice dinner and chatted. Comes shower time and she asks me if I'm going to shower with her. I don't want to shower together every day anymore. She cries, sobbing in the corner crying, says she is miserable, can't do it anymore, tired of life, doesn't want to be alive. So do I just suck it up, shower with her for the rest of my life? In my opinion, it is such a weird thing for her to be this upset about. Which is why I'm thinking depression. A bit more about the depression, my GF used to be very depressed and more than once tried to kill herself, 10 years ago. She was on meds but after a while she felt like she was better and stopped taking them. I don't know much about depression, but I really feel like it is coming back. She is always saying how she doesn't want to live anymore, is tired of everything in life, gets upset about small things, threatens to kill herself. But, I don't know how to really bring this up. I don't want to be so quick to accuse and make it seem like I don't know, not taking her feelings seriously and just chalking it up to mental illness. Update, hey everyone, thank you so much for all your responses. They were very helpful and eye-opening. Last night, my girlfriend took a shower without me, 4th day in a row, and once again cried because I didn't join her. It wasn't as bad as the last few times, but she still believed that I loved her less / was mad at her / didn't care about her feelings even though I told her many times it wasn't true. I didn't say any specific diagnoses, but I brought up that how she is feeling, sad all the time, and reacting isn't healthy and not only is it affecting her, but it affects my happiness and our relationship. This got to her and although it made her very sad, she agreed that she needs to go back on medication and she thinks it would be good to speak to a therapist. Now that she's had the chance to sleep on it, I hope she continues with this mindset and I will bring it up with her again tonight. However, she did say this morning that she would like to take a shower with me tonight. She sounded extremely sad and I am tempted to do so. Maybe for now we can cut it down to 2x a week and see how it goes from there. Is this a bad idea? TLDR, girlfriend got incredibly angry and upset when I said I didn't want to take a shower with her anymore. We normally do, so I can see why she would be sad. But I think she might actually be depressed and should talk to someone about it. Also, do I keep taking a shower with her even though I don't want to? Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Your girlfriend has got some serious mental health issues here. That is far from a normal reaction. Yeah, depression or severe anxiety may be the cause. You're reacting pretty normally here. Reply. I have looked up symptoms of BPD and thought she checked a lot of those boxes. I didn't really want to say anything though since it seems extreme. It would be better if she was told by a therapist. She has threatened suicide multiple times, saying things like jumping off the roof, slitting her wrists, or just saying that she wants to kill herself. I don't think she is doing it for attention, but she has at times done things to try and kill herself knowing it won't work, strangling herself with a cord or plastic bag. Not at the moment. She did go to therapy and was on medication 5+ years ago. But when she got better she stopped. She started taking antidepressants again maybe 2 years ago. But she didn't like how they made her feel, so she stopped. Commenter 2. She is always saying how she doesn't want to live anymore, is tired of everything in life, gets upset about small things, threat. OP, no need to mince words. Your girlfriend sounds like she's extremely depressed and needs help immediately. When a person talks about killing herself, it's past time to say, you need help now. If she refuses to get help, that's grounds to end the relationship. Update. Hey everyone, I'd like to thank everybody for their responses / they were very helpful and eye-opening. A lot has happened in the few days since I first posted, so I'll try to summarize as well as I can. The showering thing, my girlfriend told me that her feelings are extremely hurt because taking a shower together is one of her favorite things to do with me. Every day she has cried about it because she doesn't understand why I don't want to do it anymore, why I can't just suck it up and do it because I know it makes her happy, and now she says I have ruined showers. We came to a compromise that we would shower together 3x a week and she could pick which days. I understand that she is hurt by this, but I do not understand her reaction. It felt very extreme and I think the heart of the problem is depression or something similar. I didn't say anything specific, but I told my girlfriend that how she is feeling, sad all the time, and how she is reacting isn't healthy, and not only is it affecting her, but it affects my happiness and our relationship. She admitted that she does feel sad and like life has no point and that she really overthinks things. She didn't say anything about her anger or outbursts, so I don't know if she doesn't associate these things with depression or maybe she is embarrassed. But she said that she would visit the local walk-in clinic the next day to see if she could get some medication. This is a good step, but I really think she should see someone more specialized. The other night she mentioned maybe seeing a psychiatrist, but she doesn't seem enthusiastic or open to the idea at all. Well, the next day she was too tired after work, so she never ended up going to the doctor. On Saturday we were still having this argument. It basically restarts every single evening around shower times. It was basically the same stuff, I hurt her feelings, she doesn't understand, etc. She was getting extremely upset and said that I was trying to push antidepressants on her when she feels that she doesn't need it, and that I know that she suffers from depression and it's just a part of her I have to accept. She deals with me being optimistic about life, so I can learn to deal with her hating life. I don't understand how she can acknowledge there is a problem, but not want to do anything about it. Anyway, while she was angry I stepped outside. She then closed the door, locked it from the inside, leaving me standing in the cold. It was around -10 degrees and starting to snow, in the middle of the night wearing boxers and a t-shirt. While I was locked out she then got my phone and read through my text messages. I feel like this is just a whole other problem. I may have only been outside for 2 minutes max, but I didn't know how long she planned to leave me out there in the cold. And then going through my phone. She eventually opened the door to let me in, and so I went to take back my phone and she grabs me and pinches me. Maybe I'm overreacting since I was only outside for a couple of minutes, but I was pretty mad about this. After I cooled down, or warmed up, technically, she said she was sorry and that it was really mean. But it really felt like I was just dismissed. It is really bothering me that she did that. I mean, what would you say if I was a kid and my mum locked me out of the house in the cold in my pajamas? I think this is also added to the fact that she pinched me and in the past has pushed me, kicked me, bitten me, tried to strangle me, and punched me. This post is getting pretty long, so I'm going to try and wrap it up. At the moment she and I are in limbo, kind of teetering, break up or not break up. She was crying really hard yesterday and was very sad and offered we both go to counseling. So I know she wants to work on things. I know I have hurt her a lot emotionally, but how many times can I forgive her for hurting me physically? TLDR, girlfriend is still very upset that we aren't going to shower together every day. Does not feel like she needs medication, but agreed to go to couples counseling after I nearly broke up with her for locking me out in the Canadian cold. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Take a step back and imagine a friend came to you and outlined these issues to you and asked you for your advice. What would you say to them? Reply. I'd probably tell them to GTFO and they can sleep at my place. Commenter 2. You appear to be in an abusive relationship with an unstable individual who is not in a good place to be in a relationship. Her excuse of dealing with your optimism does not justify you dealing with her hating life. That's not how it works. Optimism is a positive quality that all people must work towards, and excusing harmful traits like hers is dangerous. I think deep down you understand that this problem is out of your hands and the relationship cannot continue the way it is. At the very least, you need to find separate living arrangements while she works to improve her depression and overall mental state. But if I were you, I would end the relationship and inform her family of the situation. Reply. You're right, I do understand that. I told my girlfriend that I do love her and care about her, but the relationship cannot continue how it is now. That we do not get along a lot of the time, I hurt her feelings, she hurts me, and that I want to be with her, I just don't think we should. This is when she really started crying and apologizing, and I honestly have never seen anyone so sad in my entire life. Commenter 3. Do not go to counseling with an abuser. Stories number 2. Aita for telling my fiancé him going for a late night walk with his coworker was not okay. My fiancé and I have been partners for 3 years and are getting married in June. He works from home 2/3 days a week and goes in on the remaining days. He isn't close with any of his coworkers since I've heard him often complain about how most of his coworkers are much older, except with this girl who I think joined a few months back. I've heard him say her name a few times, mostly harmless stuff I guess about how she recommended a show to him or had him try out her lunch, but NGL sometimes it's still a little annoying how much he values her input because it's a bit out of character. She's also the only coworker that I've heard him talk about random stuff with on his work calls. I'm not saying any of this is wrong, but I just want to be honest about the stuff that's been on my mind because it's possible I might be in the wrong here. He's been gone for a work trip to another branch with some other colleagues of his, including her. Last night, I texted him if he was done with dinner and was good to talk. He said he was just taking a stroll with her. I froze for like a good couple of seconds, asked who else is there. He said noon they just decided to take a walk and check the area around their hotel out. I was not okay with this, told him this was crazy disrespectful and called him. He declined my call, and texted back saying there's nowhere for him to talk to me in private at the moment, that he'll call me back. I called again, he answered. I told him this was not okay at all, what was he doing taking a walk so late with her? He just responded breezily because I guess she was close, and just said I'll call you back when I get back to the hotel. 15 minutes later he called me and I kind of went off on him. I said he had no business being out this late alone with a woman as someone who's about to be my husband in less than 3 months. He said he was just bored, she was the only person he was cool with and they just went for a walk, that my implication was hurtful to him. I calmed down, said I was sorry but I was just not okay with it, so I'd appreciate it if he didn't do anything alone with her for my comfort. He said fine and then said he was planning on going for a post-work lunch with her at one of the places they saw on their walk. I again asked who else, and he said just the two of them. I asked him to please invite someone else too. He said they don't vibe with anyone else. We had a bit of a tense back and forth, and he relented saying he'd invite someone else too but it would ruin it, and the fact I couldn't trust him was so disappointing. I tried to explain that it wasn't about trust, just my peace of mind, but I did a bad job of explaining that. Today, he responded to my good morning messages very curtly. I know he's angry with me. Was I the AH? Relevant comments. Comment 1. He took a show recommendation from her and tried the food she had. The fact that you think that's him valuing her input so much says more about you than him. It's incredibly normal to walk around the area after dinner when you're at a work conference, and guess what? Sometimes that means you're with someone that is the opposite sex. It's not a big deal. Reply. I said it's out of character because it takes me ages to convince him to watch a show with me that I'm invested in. And I understand I may have overreacted to the stroll, that me being uncomfortable about it may be a me problem, and that's what I wanted to know. Comment 2. Has he ever done anything suspicious? I don't think taking her recommendations or walking together at a work conference is enough to accuse him of cheating. Reply. I didn't mean to accuse him of cheating, I guess that's what I couldn't explain properly. I just had a bad feeling in my gut about the whole thing and decided to voice it. I guess I should have considered it a bit more before doing that, since it seems the comments do think I overreacted. Comment 3. NTA for telling him you're not okay even with what he's told you he's done with this lone coworker, the only one in the whole team he vibes with. Who knows what he hasn't told you, because you wouldn't understand, etc. He's dropped her name multiple times already. Now he's refusing to engage with you on the phone because he's out enjoying a late night stroll with her. He told you to wait, his fiancée, because he wasn't done having his nice walk with another woman. That woman with whom he now has a lunch date planned. Just the two of them, because you know he just doesn't vibe anyone else there. Trust your gut. Something ain't right here. Have an in-depth chat with him when he gets home. Update 1. I had posted earlier in the day about me getting angry with my fiancé for his one-to-one plans with his coworker. The replies made me realize I was in the wrong, so I called him and apologized for overreacting last night. He told me it was all good. I asked if he'd already asked another coworker to join them for lunch. He hadn't yet, so I told him I was okay with them making plans after work and he thanked me for it. Full disclosure, my ex was a control freak when it came to me, wanting me to put the phone on speaker whenever I'd be talking to my friends or family, wanting updates every half hour, and I hated him so much at the end of it, and promised myself I'd never be a controlling partner like that, but it's possible I picked up some wrong norms from that period. My fiancé's coworker also put up some photos on Insta of their lunch together and their trip to a lake after, and I realized they're just coworkers who have similar interests. When I posted initially it was just that in my mind he'd act out of character when it came to her, acting on show recs when he normally doesn't, replying to her texts fairly quickly when he normally takes a while, and I just thought that wasn't okay, but I also fully understand that my idea of right and wrong is a bit skewed due to my past. And I'm glad I was made to realize it before I went further down the road and became the kind of partner my ex was to me. Thanks. Relevant comments. Comment 1. Just because you may have overreacted to a walk doesn't mean the situation is kosher. It just means you need to have a calm conversation with your fiancé about what makes you uncomfortable and why. If he knew you were uncomfortable with lunch and grudgingly said it was fine, why would he push it by also going to the lake after? I'm married and that would bother me if my husband did that after I expressed I was uncomfortable with the relationship. Comment 2. I personally believe that he is playing you when it comes to her. She's posting pictures of them on their lunch together and going to the lake. No wonder he didn't want anyone having lunch with them. Why would she post pictures of them together at lunch and at a lake if they are just coworkers? She, IMO, just threw it in your face. What were her comments when she posted them? Good luck to you. Comment 3. Your gut told you it was weird because it's weird. Next time they have an after-work hang/happy hour, ask him to invite you. You should do a real-life vibe check. Stories number 3. Aita for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after my parents disowned me. I honestly don't know if I'm being petty or if I'm finally just standing up for myself, but my entire family is acting like I'm the worst person alive. So, here we go. I, 28F, have a younger sister, Emily, 24F, who has been the golden child in my family for as long as I can remember. Growing up, she was the perfect daughter, straight A's, involved in everything, always showered with praise. Meanwhile, I was the kid who got good enough grades, stayed out of trouble, and just existed in the background. If Emily wanted something, she got it. If I wanted something, I was being difficult or selfish. It's been like this my whole life, and I've honestly just learned to deal with it. Emily is getting married soon, and she asked me to be her maid of honor. To be honest, I was surprised she even asked because we're not close. She's always been distant toward me, and I've always been treated more like an obligation than an actual sibling. But I said yes because I thought, why not? Maybe this would be a chance to bond, and if nothing else, I figured it would be easier to just go along with it than to deal with the inevitable fallout of saying no. Well, fast forward to the actual wedding planning, and it became very clear that my role wasn't really about me being her sister, it was about me doing things for her. She expected me to help plan everything, run around doing errands, and basically dedicate my life to this wedding. She and my mom started planning a pre-wedding family trip a week before the wedding, which they expected everyone to attend. It wasn't optional. It was mandatory, for the sake of family bonding. I told them early on that I wouldn't be able to take that much time off work, but I'd still come to the wedding and do my part as maid of honor. That wasn't good enough. My mom and Emily sat me down and gave me this whole speech about how this is the most important moment of Emily's life and how I need to be there to support her fully. They told me to think about the bigger picture and how family should come first. I told them that while I understood this was a big moment for Emily, I wasn't willing to upend my entire life for this wedding. I have a job. I have my own life. I can't just drop everything for a week-long trip on top of all the wedding obligations. That's when my mom told me that if I wasn't going to be there 100%, then maybe I shouldn't be there at all. I asked her if she was seriously telling me that if I didn't go on this trip, I wouldn't be welcome at the wedding. She told me I was being selfish and that my attitude was exactly why the family struggled to be close with me. Then, my dad chimed in and said, if you don't want to be part of the family, that's your choice. At that point, I realized this wasn't just about the wedding. This was about every single time I'd been pushed aside in favor of Emily. Every single time I'd been expected to just suck it up and be okay with being treated like an afterthought. So, I told them I was done. If my presence was so conditional, then they could have their perfect family event without me. Cue absolute chaos. My parents freaked out, telling me I was being dramatic and making everything about me. Emily started crying, saying I was ruining her wedding over something so small. I got messages from other family members saying I should just do it for the sake of family harmony and that I was being ridiculous. My aunt, on my mom's side, is the only person who actually took my side, saying that she's seen this favoritism play out for years and she's proud of me for standing up for myself. Now, my parents have basically cut me off. They told everyone that I refused to be there for Emily and now I'm getting the cold shoulder from most of my extended family. Meanwhile, Emily has fully replaced me as maid of honor and even made a passive-aggressive Facebook post about how she's grateful for the people who truly understand the meaning of family. Now my parents are backtracking and saying I should come to the wedding to fix this mess because my absence is causing division. But at this point, I honestly don't even want to go. They made it clear how little I matter to them, and now they just want me there so they don't look bad. So, Aita for refusing to attend. Should I just go to keep the peace, or am I right to stand my ground? Mini update. I'm not even sure where to put this update since so much is happening so fast and I'm relatively new to this site. I use it for the adorable r/cats and nothing else, especially posting, but here we go. My parents and a big chunk of the family are getting ready to leave for the pre-wedding trip soon, which means things have been weirdly quiet. No over-the-top guilt trips, no dramatic, passive-aggressive messages about preserving the family harmony, just pure, unadulterated radio silence. I'm guessing they're too busy with last-minute packing and planning to keep up the pressure on me, which, honestly, has been a relief. That being said, I've started getting messages from some relatives who had no problem ignoring me a few days ago. Suddenly, my cousins are checking in like nothing happened, and my mom's sister, not my supportive aunt, the other one, sent me a long-winded message about how family disagreements shouldn't last forever and how I should just let this go for the sake of keeping the peace. At first, I wasn't sure why they were all suddenly reaching out, but after talking to my aunt, I think I get it now. My parents have clearly been doing damage control behind the scenes, trying to keep everyone on their side before the wedding. They've had a few days to spin their version of events, but now that they're about to leave, they're realizing they won't have as much control over the situation while they're gone. That's probably why some of these relatives are suddenly reaching out, to test the waters and see where I stand. So, I've decided I'm going to respond, but not yet. I'm waiting until tomorrow, when my parents and Emily are officially on their trip and too distracted to jump in and twist the story immediately. Once they're gone, I'm reaching out to everyone on my parents' side, the ones who ignored me, the ones who are suddenly acting friendly, all of them. And I'm not going to argue or explain myself. I'm just going to send them the exact messages my parents sent me when they told me not to come. No extra commentary, no justifications, just their own words. I don't expect everyone to suddenly take my side, but at the very least, I want them to see the truth before my parents try to twist things even further. I'll update again once I see how that goes. See you in the next one. Update, Aita for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after my parents disowned me. So, I wasn't sure where to put this update, but a lot has happened, and it's honestly still sinking in. If you had told me a week ago that most of my extended family would actually take my side, I would have laughed in your face. But here we are. Once my parents and Emily were officially on their trip, I knew it was time. I had to reach out before they got back and had the chance to twist things even more. So, I sat down and made a list of every single relative on my parents' side who had either gone cold on me or outright ignored me since all of this started. Some of them had sent me passive-aggressive messages. Others had just stopped responding altogether. These were the people who had clearly believed my parents' version of events without question, and if I was going to get the truth out, I had to do it now, before they could be manipulated again. I didn't send some big emotional explanation. I didn't beg for sympathy. I didn't even try to defend myself. All I did was send screenshots, the exact messages where my parents made it clear that if I wasn't going to drop everything for Emily's wedding, then I wasn't welcome at all. No extra words. No added context. Just their own words staring my relatives right in the face. And then, I waited. I thought it would take a while for people to respond. Maybe I'd get a slow trickle of replies over a few days, some hesitant, some half-hearted. But nope. Within minutes, my phone started blowing up. The first call came from my uncle, one of the people who had originally told me to think about the bigger picture, and not let one argument ruin my relationship with my family. When I answered, he sounded angry. Not at me, at my parents. The first thing out of his mouth was, "What the hell? This is not what your parents told us." Apparently, they had made it sound like I had voluntarily refused to come, that I had decided I didn't want to be part of Emily's wedding just because. They never mentioned the ultimatum. They never admitted to cutting me off. He said he felt lied to and that he was going to have a conversation with them when they got back. My parents hate being confronted, so that should be interesting. Then there was my mom's sister, the one who had originally told me to be the bigger person and let this go for the sake of the family. Her response was short at first. I didn't realize it was like this. Then, a few minutes later, she sent another message, "If I had known, I wouldn't have told you to just move on." So yeah, she backtracked fast. Then the cousins started chiming in. One of them admitted that they had distanced themselves because they didn't want to get involved in family drama, but after seeing the messages, they felt bad for assuming my parents were telling the truth. Another one literally said, "I'm sorry, I just assumed you were being difficult because that's what your mom made it sound like." That one stung. I mean, I get it, my parents have spent years painting me as the difficult one, and it's easier to believe the person making the most noise. But at least they were willing to own up to it now. And then, of course, there were the holdouts. A select few older relatives are still refusing to acknowledge that my parents did anything wrong. These are the ones who just can't admit they were wrong, who will defend my parents no matter what because, in their eyes, family is family. One of my aunts actually had the audacity to send me a long paragraph about how weddings are stressful and people say things they don't mean. I shut that down real fast. I told her that this wasn't some heat-of-the-moment frustration, my parents cut me off and then lied to everyone about it. That's not stress. That's a deliberate choice. And if she still wanted to make excuses for them after seeing the proof, then I had nothing more to say to her. But the best part? My parents and Emily have no idea this is happening, not a clue. They're off on their pre-wedding vacation, completely unaware that the family they thought was blindly supporting them has now seen the truth. No one has warned them. No one has given them a heads up. As far as they know, they're coming home to a family that fully supports them and thinks I'm the one who abandoned them. I don't know what's going to happen when they realize the narrative has flipped while they were gone. But honestly, that's not my problem anymore. I've cut off the people who refuse to see the truth, and I'm keeping the ones who actually care. They wanted me out. Well, congratulations. I'm gone. No more contact from me. They can deal with the fallout by themselves, because I've got a radiation suit. Stories number 4. My 21F, my sister, 19F, failed in an attempt at blackmail, we still live together, how do I go from here? Hi. So, throwaway for privacy reasons. So, quick background, I'm a third-year college student at a very demanding undergraduate career, I can only work on summer's break, currently studying/living away from home thanks to a scholarship, so money is quite tight in my family. So, big wall of text, but bear with me. A year ago my sister decided to study and live with me in the same place. To be honest, I was half excited, half horrified. She's my sister, but she has always been messy, unorganized, and pretty much kept an immature behavior all the time, tantrums with my parents about going out, fights with them instead of reasoning. But yeah, who is not immature at 18 years old? Well, anyway, my sister kept this behavior and brought it to college. Her room is a mess, it smells weird, and has never vacuumed/cleaned in a whole year, keeps getting late to class, forgets stuff, etc., and has been always bad with money managing, spends a lot on booze, parties, clubs, Uber, you name it, except drugs. Not that I'm aware of, though, but seriously doubt it. So, as her sister I tried to teach her a little bit of finances, how much to spend on groceries, ways to save money, be clear on how much we are allowed to spend, etc. Well, I kinda saw an improvement on her last year. She told me where she went at night, with who. I'm not her mother, that's not my role, but I care for her, so I used to ask her all weekends where she was going, not to tell her, no, don't go, but to know where she was going to be. Back on me, last year I met the nicest and most charming guy, and even when we are at a long-distance relationship right now, we are finally on a serious status, but my parents do not know yet. I plan to tell them in 2 weeks, when my evaluations are done, and I want to be a surprise because he's just perfect for me, kind, polite, smart. It's my first serious relationship and I'm pretty sure they're gonna like him. Anyway, since I live with my sister I decided to tell her first when we both agreed on being on a serious relationship, and told her I was going to tell my parents in my way and that I trusted her with this. I'm the first member of my family that has a long-distance relationship, so it will be kind of difficult to explain it to them because the generational gap. Never told her the date I planned to tell my parents, or when she could meet him. My so wants to meet my sister so bad. So, thanks in part of lurking our/relationships, I put my foot down and told her no, even when she offered me to pay me with interests. It's our parents' money after all, so yeah, what's the catch on that? I called her on her behavior and told her I would not give her a cent from my budget until she spoke to my parents about this, that it was becoming a problem. She went quiet and never asked me again. To the blackmail part. Now, yesterday she told me, around midnight, that she needed some documents that her college administration office is demanding her, I don't even know for what exactly, and asked me if I had copies, and that due date is today. At 6 p.m. So I sent her the documents super late at night at her email, and went to sleep. Today, in the middle of a class, she texted me saying that she had forgot the password for that email. I've had that email on my address list for at least 5 years, so, probably BS, and to please send it through other mail/Facebook. I had no problem with sending it again, but now I was pissed off, more worried, TBH, at her, and told her how could she put parties/clubs/going out above paying rent and have food in the fridge, etc., and just how could she just do stuff at the last minute. Well, she told me that I could take 5 minutes to be nice on her, and sending it again. I was in the middle of class, you know. I'm supposed to pay attention to the lecture. I was going to send it after that, to stop being so sour and bitter, and what did make me laugh out loud, that it was not convenient to have her on a bad mood while I was on a relationship with my so, and to not count on her when I tell my parents. Yeah, I felt like she was threatening me. Again, I guess thanks to this sub, I decided to be the calm one and called her on her behavior again, and told her that the one who probably did not want in a bad mood was me. I managed the money and had whatever she wanted, and my parents do not know a single word about spending her money for food on booze. I finished saying that I wanted my family, including her, to be part of my relationship with my so just as I'm going to be part of his, and gave her an ultimatum of just telling me if she wanted to be part of it or not. She has seen it, but not responded it yet. I'm no longer afraid of telling my parents about my so, but seeing that my sister tried to use something I trusted her with against me kinda makes me think twice about our relationship, but we are still living together, so I know it's going to be awkward. Reddit, was I too harsh on her? What should I do next, besides moving out? TLDR, sister tried to blackmail me with my so, epically failed. We still live together, so I don't know how to continue to interact with her while sharing the same roof. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Wow, as soon as she thought she had leverage on you, she started treating you and your home like shit. Can you boot her? Commenter 2. No, not can you boot her. Fucking boot her. She sounds lazy, entitled and dismissive. She knows she has a golden parachute, she has no reason to change. That'll change when she has to get her shit together because big sis is kicking her out. Do it. Commenter 3. Talk to your parents, tell them what happened and that they need to find a new place for your sister to live or you won't be responsible for your actions. Update. Hi again, last post got some attention, thanks for everyone who read it and even more to those who took the time to comment. I really appreciate the input. So, yesterday the last thing that I posted was that my sister had seen the message but had not answered yet. Well, a little bit after that everything just went south through WhatsApp, and besides that the orthography she used could give cancer, kinda writing like it is, I can't even, she just dug herself even deeper in dirt and frankly I am done, I'm exhausted at this point and have better things to focus my energy on. So, on to the conversation. I won't copy-paste it because A, I cancer and B, original is quite long, again, sorry, long wall of text. BC, me, S, sister, notes, S. Beside the WTF factor that you have a long distance with him, I already talked to dad, but I wished you understand that I get up like super early and get home so late, I don't have like super easy like you, the rent it's cheap and that time I went out was like once, a friend was in town and had like 0 evaluations. I'm so sorry about the docs, sarcastic, they told me Sunday night, okay I admit that I don't do my dishes and need to work on that but don't know where they come from, I don't eat that often at home, hint for Reddit, those are from last weekend. What really bothered me was that you refused to send the documents like I'm asking you to come in person and deliver them to me in my hand, and literally the only favor you have ever done to me was borrow me a couple dollars in January, have empathy, and stop being so arrogant. I don't say anything when you use my honey that I bought myself, I hope someone does the same to you. So, thank you for the favor and for giving me 5 minutes of your time even when all you did was send 2 things in a super forced way and under threats, like I wouldn't do that to you. 30 minutes later. S. Look, I'm sorry, I promised to do the dishes half a week. BC. To be clear I sent my ideas in paragraphs. I never had any trouble sending those documents, I was in class and I'm still with evaluations. If you had told me Sunday night I would have sent them the very same night. Just like it doesn't take me 5 minutes to send them, it doesn't take you one to tell me on time. My program being super easy. Seriously? I got offended by this. Refusing to give you money from my budget because yours was spent on parties is not being arrogant. I'm not superior to you, I don't eat honey. It's probably dripping on your cupboard, check that. I know empathy, I know how it's like being with no free time, another hint, I don't go out on weekends because I'm studying, and so, I know that it's possible to get organized. Yes, it's not common practice how my relationship with my so is right now, but we both agreed on making it work. You tried to use something I trusted you against me, and although I can forgive, I won't forget. Anything regarding him you will know it from someone else than me, but you're still invited to meet him because he wants to. Just tell me when you have the time. PD, you forgot to take out the trash. I give credit to Reddit for that last paragraph, several posts on this sub use that kind of approach, so I decided to do the same. S, you never told me about the trash. And I never said anything against you, and I'm always shocked how mean you are just with me, the worst being that I'm used to it, other people have told me that, so, never said against me. I promise to change the things about the trash and dishes, won't tell you to never ask me favors, heck, please ask me for favors, no, I will do them, I'm so not looking for revenge, what, not because I want to prove something, but because I would be so tiring to take revenge on something not worth it, at this point I'm just confused. I'm sorry for what I've done, I admit I'm messy and will put aside whatever excuses for my lack of time, gonna change that for my own good and hopefully for you too, if you need anything just tell me. BC, I know you're not out for revenge, that would be so weird for a couple docs I couldn't send because I was paying attention to my professor. If you want to do favors for me, I prefer you do those to yourself, be clean, get organized and start tracking your expenses. It's a good start. I get worried that your priorities are wrong. The mean behavior I'm displaying just might be because of how you treat me. Isn't it surprising how it's only with you? We agreed it on the trash on Sunday, you were on your phone. Take it out next time. So, as of today, she had not seen this message, probably just ignoring me by now. So, yeah, that happened yesterday. I just want to mention that it was hours before an exam, so yeah, it got me stressed and probably will affect my grade. What's my next step? First, as much as I wish to move out right now, I can't. Money is tight right now, but I know I won't have to share a house forever with her. Don't share a room though, and only until I get my degree and get a job I will be able to get out and never share a place with her ever. For now, patience. Period. 2. I'm still gonna live with her, but for me she's just another roommate. No more no less. 3. I will tell my parents again, this behavior is not unusual, but I'm going to demand them to give her all of her budget. I'm done being more of a nanny than a sister, and like one of you said yesterday, she can live without a nanny or a manager. Big changes start with baby steps. 4. Along with that, I plan to tell them about my so. I got nothing to be used against me, but if my sister thinks she got leverage on me with that, I rather take the imaginary wind out of her sails as soon as I can, although it's nice to let her dream a little bit longer. I got a killer internship on January that's gonna give me a badass resume. Today I'm gonna see the nicest gentleman that is my so. I managed to get a research position at my college and I'm also editor of a college magazine, so if something is gonna affect my grades or performance or even get in my way it's gonna be me, not meaningless drama from my sis. I don't know if I'm gonna have a third update after I talk to my parents, but hopefully they will open their eyes because mine feel sore by now. I'm done. Sorry I sounded angry, I'm still fuming a little bit. It's not my nature. TLDR, things went south on WhatsApp. I'm done with her behavior, will take measures including telling my parents and will divert my energy on better things. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. If her rent money is coming from your parents, they should give that directly to you to make sure rent is paid. If she can't be trusted with her rent money, she shouldn't have any access to it. You should have the hard conversations in person, rather than through texting. Texting is easy to misinterpret and send people off into angry rabbit holes. And seriously, you live with her. One sit-down 10-minute discussion could be more productive than hours of angry texts back and forth. She does seem like the kind of person that might destroy or tamper with your stuff in petty revenge. So protect yourself against that. Commenter 2. Swap your doorknob out for one that locks with a key, and keep your room locked while you're not home to protect your stuff. A locking trunk for your snacks, and a mini fridge with a lock will keep her from tampering with your food. Tell your parents to give you the money for her rent and utilities so they will get paid, but all the rest goes to her. That lets you pay all the bills and forces her to be responsible for her own spending. Editor's note, OOP did make another update but it cannot be recovered, so marking this as inconclusive. Stories number 5. Wibta if I don't give my late BF's house to his parents. My BF, 30M, RIP, and I, 33M, were together for 15 years. I was his senior in high school, and we stayed together until a few months ago when he passed away due bone cancer. I live in a traditional country where same-sex marriage is no legal but is not a big issue socially. His parents kicked him out when he came out as gay at 17, my family took him in, helped him to finish HS and were supportive the most they could. I work in HR and he worked in IT, since he started to work he made good money. He saved enough to purchase a house 10 years ago, he was paying the mortgage all by himself. 4 years ago he got the diagnosis. He reduced his working hours to take care of his health and I stepped in to pay the mortgage. It was a hard battle, but cancer took him back in March. After he passed away, his family appeared in the picture, saying how they regretted not being in his son's life and stuff. Time went by and a month ago they reached out to me asking me when they can expect I could give them the keys of the house. Since same-sex marriage is no legal, they could claim the house as their family. I told them that the house was in my name, I bought it from him a year into the cancer, so it was legally mine and I had been paying the mortgage way before it. They got upset and said I was being unreasonable, that it should be legally theirs, that my BF would have wanted to give them the house, which is in fact true. My BF talked a lot how he would give everything to them if that would fix the relationship between them. Actually, he bought the house as a way to bring them live with him so they would no longer rent. He also tried to make amends with them all this time, unsuccessfully. I told them that I would give them the house for the price I bought it from my BF and they would have to pay me back these 4 years of mortgage plus take the debt over their name. They said they didn't have the money and that it was so selfish of me to tell them that, knowing what my BF would have wanted. They proposed just to change the debt onto their name and give me no money in return. I declined. They got mad and the discussion got heated to the point they told me they would bring me to court accusing me of scamming my BF to have the house. they can't. They have been calling and texting me non-stop for the past month, telling me I would be an asshole to my BF if I don't give them the house. I know they can't pay me back all the money I put in the house, but I'm conflicted right now. Some friends told me that I should give them the house and move on with my life, but it just doesn't feel right to me. I'm leaning more on to not giving them the house, but I know my BF would jump the bed and give it to them. Right now their words feels empty and as if they just want to take advantage of the situation. I don't need the house, to be honest, but don't want to give them either. We never talked with my BF what should I do with the house after his death, so whipta if I don't give them the house. ETA, thank you all for your kind words. I cried a lot with most of the comments. Sorry if I can't keep the pace and reply to everyone, just wanted to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. ETA 2, this blown up in ways I didn't even think about. Thank you all for your kind words. Just to add some info that looks like is needed for some of you, I live in a country in Central America, for safety reason will not give the name. Here is not illegal being LGBTQ+, but same-sex marriage is just not legal, nothing more. We didn't live in the house, we lived at my apartment, that's why I don't need the house, but I just don't feel right to giving it to his parents. Also, almost all his money went to pay medical bills, he didn't want me to put my money on it, which obviously I would have, and buying the house was the best idea we came out with to satisfy the both of us. The house is not a big one, 6 MTS x 10 MTS, and also is in the suburbs, is not worth the same as in other countries, around $90,000 or a little more. He was such a kind heart, so I'm pretty sure that even if it was a lie, he would have given them the house the moment they acknowledge him as gay and tell him they loved him. That's the reason why I'm having a hard time considering this. I can't answer all your comments, but I'm trying to read you all. Thank you for your support. Update whipta if I don't give my late BF's house to his parents. First of all, thanks to all the people who replied and gave me some support, I really appreciate that. Back when I posted the story, I was in a really bad place and everything was convoluted, I can't tell you how hard it was for me to get to a decision. A lot of people told me to take some time to think about it, but I really want to thank you /Ms. Saftig J. When I was logging out from Reddit back in the day, I saw their response and it lived rent-free in my head for almost a week, that helped me decided to take my time before make any decision regarding the house. So I decided to wait until I felt I was able to think clearly. It took me a few months, it was hard, his parents kept bothering me with calls and emails about the house, they even hired a lawyer to talk to me about it, but my own lawyer told them all to fuck off, they hadn't any leg to stand on if that would have gone to a judge. Back in January I finally felt able to make any decision, I told them that I was going to sell them the house for the original price my BF bought it, I would still lost some money but was the best course of action for me, and that was my last offer. They refuse it, telling that I should be a better person and let them get the house for less, they didn't even dare to call me his boyfriend, just a person, so I decided to put the house on the market. Back in February they reached out to me again, asking if my proposal was still on the table. I would have loved to tell them no but I know my BF wanted them to live there, so I told them yes but they had to decide it within a week, it wasn't necessary, they accepted right away. So I let my lawyer handle the selling, I didn't want to see them no more. I got surprised when my lawyer handled me a photo book of him as kid and pre-teen, looks like it was their way of trying to acknowledge their son's life. Is the only thing for what I'm grateful for to them. A few weeks ago was my BF's 1-year memorial, they didn't show up, so I can move on with my life without them bothering me no more. Thanks again for all the comments and DM, you guys are awesome. Stories number 6. Aita for telling my husband I will not be getting up in the morning and making his lunches for him. So my husband works 8-5 Monday through Friday. I work varying schedule usually 4 to 5 days a week and it's evening/night shift position. Sometimes I work 6 p.m. to 12 a.m. and sometimes it's 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. We have an 8-month-old and a 3-year-old. I am very tired whenever I have an overnight shift but still take care of the kids through the day and maybe catch 1 to 2 hour nap when kids nap. I still make dinner every night. I still make sure the house is clean and dishes are done even when I know I'm going straight to work when he gets home. For the last 5 years I have got up at 6 to 7 a.m. and packed my husband's lunch for his work day. If I don't pack a lunch for him I get guilt-tripped about it. Or when we are struggling to make ends meet he will go spend $15 out of $60 we have left for lunch and tell me, sorry you should have got up to make my lunch, so he will be eating a big nice burger while me and the kids are surviving off canned foods or cereal from my WIC card. I told him last night he's going to have to start making his own lunch. I tried to make a deal and said only when our 8-month-old starts actually sleeping through the night will I get up and make his lunch. She still gets up 3 times a night. Definitely not like our first because he was sleeping 10+ hours straight by 4 months. I said I genuinely feel like a shell of a person because I don't get any sleep some days and days I don't work my sleep is still broken up sleep and definitely not 8 hours. He says we are just going to have to figure a way to work it in his budget so he can buy lunch every day. New flash, that isn't going to work. I write the budget and we barely have any wiggle room, have rent, utilities, gas, student loans, food, diapers, wipes, and just basic living expenses. We definitely won't have enough to cover $15 20 days a month for his big burger he likes to get. He says my schedule is way more laid back, and he works so hard through the week and he has to get up and actually get dressed in the morning so he won't have time to make his lunch. And since I'm already home and usually is my comfy clothes, I should still be able to get up and make his lunch. The problem is when I get off at 5 a.m. I really just want to go right to sleep and try and get a few hours before the kids get up. And days I get home at 12 a.m. I still would like to sleep, and if I get up to make his lunch I'm usually stuck awake for the rest of the day and can't get back to sleep. Aita for trying to make this deal. Or should my husband be a big boy and just make his own lunch? Edit to add, I thought it would be worth mentioning that it didn't always feel this imbalanced. My husband had the best paying job in a 60-mile radius when we planned our second. We were really comfortable and I was a som. Hence why I did not mind getting up and making his lunches. When we were 4 months pregnant the plant announced their shutdown and officially closed when she was 2 months old. I got a job really quick. So this issue about the lunches has only been an issue for the past 5 months. Also to the weirdos saying I can take out the trash and clean the gutters now since I won't be making his lunch. I already do those manly jobs. The difference is I don't have to wait till he gets home to do it by myself. I take the kids with me and let them enjoy outside time while I take care of those things. Stories number 7. My 39M daughter, 6F, said mother's BF, 42M, hit her. My ex-wife and I have been divorced for about 4 years now. We have 3 kids together, 2 boys, 8 and 10, and 1 girl, 6, and share 50-50 custody. She's been dating the same guy for about 3 years, however, last year he apparently cheated on her and they broke up for 5 to 6 months and decided to get back together. He's now partially living at her house with the kids. Last night my daughter and I were cuddling for bedtime and she said her belly hurts. I asked her what was wrong and why it was hurting, e.g., do you have to use the potty? She said, it's probably because of mommy's BF, to which I immediately perked up and said, why would it be because of him? She said, he hits me in my belly and it hurts when he does. I asked her to show me how he hit her so I can distinguish if it's a punch, a slap, etc., and she open hand slapped me in the stomach. I wanted to know how hard he does it, so I told her I was going to do it to her and let me know when it felt the same. I started soft and gradually got harder and harder. She told me it was the same in what I'd call a firm, solid slap but not really hard. Meaning it would probably hurt a little but not really hurt her. Not sure if that makes sense. So I continued the discussion by asking her, what does mommy say about it? And she said, mommy doesn't see it, he only does it when mommy is at tennis. This is where I started getting alarmed. I asked her if she told him it hurts and she said, yes, but he says too bad and to go play at my friend's house. I called the mom as soon as I dropped the kids off this morning and told her the discussion, but I'm really not sure when else to do, if anything. My daughter is 6 years old and I know they are good at simultaneously taking things out of proportion while being incredibly honest. My ex and I co-parent really well and I don't want to ruin that. I'm just looking for advice. Edit. When I called and talked to my ex this morning she said she wasn't aware any of this happened. She sounded somewhat surprised/concerned but not overly. With that said, I called early and woke her up for the discussion so she was also just waking up. Edit 2, file the police report, they're going to launch a forensic investigation. I took her to the doctor and they said there didn't appear to be anything wrong with her but needed to wait for the child services to do any questioning of her. Talked to a lawyer and she advised I get the mother to agree in writing to not letting BF near the children or in her house, supervised by her or otherwise, until I tell her I'm comfortable with it. She does not know everything else happened. My advisor advised I not telling her. My ex agreed. And for those that read I hit my daughter, I didn't. I effectively tapped her and asked her if it was that hard or harder. She said harder, so I tapped her slightly harder. She said it was way harder, etc. The most pressure I put on her was a gentle push. I do not use physical punishment of my children and was careful to not do it this time either. Update. What to do about my 39M daughter, 6F, claiming that my ex-wife's boyfriend hits her. I posted yesterday about looking for advice on how to handle a situation regarding my daughter saying her mom's boyfriend hits her. I filed a police report and took her to the doctors. They said it will take a few days for CPS to get involved. I talked with a lawyer and she said the only thing a court would do for an emergency situation is to require the boyfriend to stay away from the kids until this gets sorted out, so if my ex agrees to keep him away from the kids we don't need to go that route. My ex did agree to that. So it's really a waiting game, I guess. Today I got this text from her boyfriend. I could have made myself available to field any questions or clear up any wild and or unreasonable accusations from such a creative little mind. Thank you in advance for not talking to me about this so that now we can deal with government employees, facts, the police, and who knows what other time-consuming officials that will be involved. What a waste of time, so that we may figure out you're getting lied to by a 6-year-old. This really is not efficient. Not how I would like to utilize my time, and it all could have been avoidable, had you taken 3 minutes and just reached out. Even though police reports have been made, lawyers contacted, I wanted to let you know the offer still stands if you want to discuss. Be sure to have a great day. What are your takes on this? My ex is clearly feeding into him, at least I think. Is there anything I could be doing or should be doing? Update, just talked to the assigned detective about next steps. She said it was weird because he, boyfriend, already called up there trying to talk to her. Stories number 8. Aita for telling a mom I will call CPS if she doesn't get her child. I allow too much stuff and that's why people take my kindness for weakness. I try to do what's best but I have to start putting boundaries up. My daughter has this friend named May, she has play dates with sometimes. We don't do the play dates anymore because my daughter does not feel like doing them and what's time without herself. Today at pickup her friend came out the school first and ran right to my car. I was confused but she told me she was coming to my house. Kinda like a demand. I told her I can't take her with me because we're not having any playdates but her mom told her I would when mother didn't not talk to me about this. My daughter and I had a date today to spend more time together but now we couldn't. I called the girl's mom and asked her why would she say that. The mom said she can't pick her up right now because she's not close to the school and she didn't think it would be problem for me to take her daughter home. The mom gave me no information about where she was at, she was keeping a secret. I ended up taking the girl home because she's had no one to pick her up and I felt bad. My daughter's school closes early after they leave. Of course my daughter was mad and not talking the whole day because our day was ruined she said. May's mom said she would pick her up around 4 and she's still not here. I called this lady about 60 times and no answer. Didn't know where she was, the girl couldn't stay at my house all night because that would be crazy. Finally the Leandra answered and told me she's busy. I asked her if she was still coming for May because she's late for pickup. That's when she told me I can wait some more hours because she's busy. I felt disrespected because I'm no way was she demanding me to do what she wanted. I don't her she needs to get someone to pick her up or I will call CPS. Now that's when she go mad, she started yelling at me because I'm an insensitive asshole. I told her she has 30 minutes because I was going to call CPS. Some minutes later her and her angry boyfriend came to get May. Stories number 9. Aita for telling my sister and her neighbor to stop convincing my husband into therapy otherwise we'll leave. I am 27F. And I have been married to my husband, 28M, from past 3 years. We grew up together and even went to the same school and college. We started dating when we turned 15. My husband and I moved temporarily in my parents' home. My mom is extremely sick so she asked me to stay with her for a month or two so I started living with her. My sister, 24F, lives with my parents and she's being a pain in my butt as well along with their neighbor. This neighbor is very close to my parents and visits every day and spends time with my mom and sister which I am grateful of but I don't appreciate how she's butting in my relationship. My husband is a bit rude or appears as one. He doesn't like people and minds his own business. He's kinda angry all the time but doesn't show it. He doesn't like talking about it with others except me. He's the type of guy that if a family member needed his help he'll be the first one to show up. My husband is quiet all the time and only talks to strangers if they initiate the conversation otherwise he'll focus on his work. He's a workaholic, but the neighbor keeps trying to talk to him. At first she would just initiate small talks which my husband hates but tolerated. But then she tried to convince him to go to therapy and said that her cousin is a therapist. My husband refused but she kept bringing it up every day and tried to convince him. After a few days when he had enough, he told her that he appreciates her concern but she should stay out of his life as it's none of her concern. My husband told me that he's tired of this and he's only staying with us because I and his mill asked him and he doesn't want his mill to get involved so either I stop this or he'll go back home. So I told her to stop asking or convincing my husband into therapy or whatever, and she said that she's just trying to help me and my husband. Maybe my husband needs help cause the way he's acting is like an abuser and asked me if I am okay. Even my sister joined her and said that my husband's behavior is concerning and maybe I should do something about it. I got a bit angry after hearing them and told them that they should stay out of our lives otherwise we will leave right away and go back to our home. My husband and my stance is that we are here to cheer my mother up which is why we aren't involving her into this but if they don't stop we will leave. Both of them said that they'll stop interfering in my marriage and I was rude to them when they just wanted to help me. Am I the asshole? I get they were trying to help me but who would get this pushy? I don't even know her properly. Forgive me for a long post and for my English. Comments. Commenter 1. Tell the neighbor, and possibly sister, something like this. I think you should go to therapy. You expressed your opinion and insist on pushing until you get your way. You don't respect our boundaries and are grossly overstepping. You're also adversely affecting our mother's well-being by attacking and alienating her family who wants to care for her. Get over yourself. Just because your cousin is a therapist doesn't mean you get to diagnose and harass other people. Hilda hugs. Hubby is probably happier in his own home. Reply, for real, I am reading all the replies but I feel like I am the asshole for asking him to stay with me. He loves to spend time and take care of my mother as if she's his own, but I think my sister and her neighbor is too damn much for him. He addresses my mom as his mom and he specifically said he didn't want to get her involved into this. But I think if my sister and her neighbor doesn't stop I should send him back home. Commenter 2. OP is NTA. Tell these busybodies to mind their business and stop diagnosing others and telling anyone what they should do. Update. TLDR, I went to live with my mom with my husband to support her because she's sick, but my sister and their neighbor doesn't like my husband's attitude because he appears rude and they constantly were telling my husband to go for therapy and were overly pushy about it. So 3 days ago after I made the post I decided to send my husband back home. He was concerned about what would my mom think and would it hurts her. I told him that I'll deal with my mom and my sister and join him. I stayed with my mom for extra 2 days tending and supporting her, but today I told her that I am going back home but I'll visit her every other day if possible every day. My mom quickly caught on and she said first my husband left and now I am also leaving. She asked me if everything is okay. I told her everything is okay and we are just leaving because of work-related stuff. I lied because we don't want to stress my mom because of sibling drama. When my sister came to know about this she asked me if I am leaving because of what she and their neighbor said. I was honest with her and told her yes, I can't stay in a place where my husband is not respected, so it's best if we leave. She said she respects my husband but his behavior is not normal and they were concerned about my safety and my husband might need therapy, the usual blah blah. I said I appreciate her concern but constantly telling someone to go for therapy and implying that something's wrong with them is borderline harassment and I should have put a stop to it instead of letting my husband tolerate this. She tried to stop me again and told me that I don't have to leave. I told her that I am leaving and going back to my husband. I'll visit as often as possible but I didn't expect that we would experience so much drama just for helping my mom. So now I am back in my home with my husband and I wish I could have stayed with my mom a bit longer but my sister and her neighbor screwed it all up for us. Even if by any chance my husband is abusive, even then she has no right to harass my husband with therapy, as it's none of her business. I'm kinda angry, not gonna lie. Comments. Commenter 1. Glad you got out of the situation, though it's sad that this drama had to come between you and spending time with your mom. It's shocking some PPL will just take such personal offense to others just existing in ways they don't understand and will cruelly judge anyone who is the least bit different from them. From your first post it sounds like they just hated your husband for being an introvert. Commenter 2. I agree with this. OP's last statement, though, if her husband actually was abusive, I would hope her loved ones would intervene. Since he's not, it's not an issue, but really weird stance to take that you wouldn't want him to be harassed if he was abusing you. Reply, no, I was just trying to say that my husband is not abusive. I started dating him at 15 and I have known him for even longer. So what right does my sister have to call him or implying that he is abusive? And their neighbor? I don't even know who she is. Judging someone based on their appearance I think is offensive, not just for my husband but also to me and our marriage. Even if he was abusive I wouldn't want someone else butting in constantly with unsolicited advice when nobody asked for it. Commenter 3. I don't understand why they would jump to that conclusion. Your sister may know him better but the neighbor knows nothing about him. Did they give any reasons at all for why they felt this way? Or was it just a vibe they got from his appearance? Reply, it's just because of my husband's vibe and his appearance. I've known my husband for so long and even my own mom has more faith in my husband than my idiotic sister. Stories number 10. My friend invited my ex-husband to her wedding so I had to leave. I, 37F, left my husband, Darren, 37M, 2 years ago, when our eldest daughter, now 19, came out and he physically attacked her for it. We have 4 children and I have sole custody over the 3 who young enough to be covered by custody agreements, which Darren has tried to fight me over for the past 2 years, but when you have a criminal record for beating up one child, the courts are unlikely to give you custody of the others. Darren and I were in the same friendship group since primary school but my friends told me they had all cut contact with him. I went to my friend, Rachel's, 37F, wedding, this weekend when I spotted him at the ceremony. Because it's a wedding and an important day for my friend, I chose not to acknowledge his existence. It was a big wedding anyway so I thought I could just avoid him and have a conversation with Rachel about his presence at a later date because she deserved to enjoy her day. However, when I was looking at the seating plan for the reception, I saw both of our names, one after the other. Rachel had put our group, including Darren, on the same table. My 2 other friends from this group convinced me to take my seat because we hardly get to see each other anymore, promising that they had no idea why Darren was invited and vowing to make him regret being born if any drama started. Darren sat next to me, greeted me with a "Hey, babe," as if we were still together, and I could not cope with being in his presence. All I could think about was desperately trying to restrain him while my second eldest called the police. I downed my glass of Prosecco and walked to my hotel. Yesterday, I got a message from Rachel saying that her mum asked her to invite Darren and Rachel said yes because her parents were paying for most of the wedding. Rachel's mum is Darren's godmother. I asked her about the seating plan and, again, she said that was her mum's doing because she was adamant that there was a potential for us to get back together. She apologized for not telling me, saying that she thought I wouldn't go if I knew, which is true, I wouldn't have come. I have not replied to that message and I don't plan to. As much as I don't want to give up on an over 3-decade-long friendship, I can't get past this. Comments. Commenter, also fuck any friends who convinced her to stay and actually sit at the table. YTF didn't any of them at least offer to swap seats so she didn't have to sit next to the POS that she should probably have a restraining order against. Reply, thank you. My eldest has a restraining order but because his actions were towards her and not myself, I don't really have the evidence to be granted one in the UK. Commenter, I assume, since Rachel is from the friend group, that she knows what he did. I also assume, because you've been friends for 30 years, that she knows your children. If these two facts are true, then she needed to protect you, this was unforgivable. Reply, yeah, my children call her their auntie and she and her husband helped me pack up our lives after what he did. I still can't wrap my head around why she didn't even warn me. OOP on her reaction. I was very mindful of the fact that my ex is still trying to drag me through the courts for access to my 3 younger children and if I reacted how I wanted to, it could be brought up further down the road, otherwise, I wouldn't have been so quiet. Commenter, you are a badass and I hope to be the type of mom you are. You did the right thing. You respected your friend's wedding. Your friend and her mother disrespected you and your kid. Also, the suggestion you would rekindle something with the asshole who assaulted your kid for coming out makes me seriously concerned about being around these people at all. If your friend was your friend, she would have said no, that isn't gonna happen, he's a piece of shit. End of story. Sorry you had such a shit experience. Sorry your kid's coming out was traumatic, instead of the celebration it should been. But, you're amazing and I hope you are surrounded by people who see and support how great you are. Reply, thank you so much. I can't believe I wasted so much time on this man. I'm just so grateful that my children weren't there. Looking back, I'm thinking that his presence is why they weren't invited. My eldest has a restraining order against him. 7 hours later. Commenter, you might need to warn your oldest of what happened in case your ex-friends try and contact them over you going NC. Reply, we had a conversation with her when I got home and she has blocked Rachel and her husband. Update post. Before I get into the update, I noticed a couple of comments pointing out my mistake with sole custody and I'm just grateful that I have a solicitor for custody stuff because if I make a mistake doesn't come up with a wiggly red line under it, I will not pick up on it. Anyway, I did not reply to Rachel and just blocked her but her husband called me yesterday. He apologized but then went on about how hard this is for Rachel and how she feels that the day was tainted for her. I told him that how she sees her day is not my responsibility and I ended up blocking him as well. I talked to one of the members of the friend group and he apologized for convincing me to even sit down at the table. He said he thought more about him wanting to have the group back together than how it would affect me. He then told me about how Darren told Rachel's family members who asked where I was that me seeing him reminded him too much about our son who died 2 years ago and I had to leave. He was referring to my daughter, who is a, very much alive, trans woman. Apparently no one in the group attempted to correct him, so I have just removed myself from our group chats and am going to try to make better friends. Also, thank you to the people who wished my daughter well. She wanted me to say that she really appreciates it and she is starting to thrive, despite the mental scarring and tinnitus her sorry excuse for a father gave her. I could not be prouder of how far she has come in her journey and, in September, she will be the first person in my family to go to university. She is taking a page out of the Petty Queen's book and getting her revenge with a life well lived. Comments. Commenter, I gained a daughter too just before Christmas. She's still finding her feet but enjoying all the new outfits I'm making on the sewing machine. Reply, those outfits must mean the world to her. Commenter, what do your other kids think why they can't see their dad? Reply, my second eldest saw what he did and the younger two saw the state he left their sister in. They were 7, 8 and 11 at the time so they were old enough to be aware of the situation. They do talk about missing having a dad sometimes but they don't feel safe around him and my second eldest is petrified of him. Commenter, that's horrifying. I grew up witnessing violence in my home, and that stays with a person. Have you considered counseling for the family? Reply, I am so sorry you had to go through that. They're all in individual therapy through the NHS and their schools but I will try to get us a referral for family counseling. Stories number 11. I can smell when people have cancer. Believe it or not, I can smell when someone has cancer. It is the most pungent smell ever, and only gets worse the stronger it is. As a child, my grandpa started smelling funny, and after a while he was diagnosed with cancer. The smell got stronger as his cancer did, until he passed away. I thought nothing of it until my nan on the other side started smelling the same way, and it got stronger until she eventually got diagnosed and passed away too. That's when I started thinking, wait, maybe I can smell cancer, or maybe it's just a coincidence. I started smelling the smell at varying strengths for people in public, and always kinda thought in the back of my head, oh man, I think they've got cancer. However, it wasn't until my other granddad got cancer and had to stay in hospital, and at 17 I got to go visit him in a hospice specifically for cancer patients. I could hardly walk in the building. There it was again, that smell. Do people secrete certain chemicals when they have cancer? I have a strong sense of smell, so I could possibly pick up on it. It's definitely not when they're going through chemo, because I can smell it on people who haven't started chemo yet. I am genuinely going crazy trying to find an answer. This smell is horrendous and I just don't understand why I can smell it when nobody else seemingly can. Edit, on a long car journey RN, feeling a bit car sick, so won't be replying to any more comments for a while. This isn't an April Fool's, I'll repost it tomorrow if you really don't believe. We'll be contacting more research places too. Stories number 12. I just realized I'm living the kind of life that men are often celebrated for. I'm 38. I live alone in a home that I own. I drive a company car. I have a degree, a stable job, and full control over my time and space. I don't have children and I'm single, both by choice. I also have a gorgeous 31-year-old Spanish lover I see once every couple of weeks. No pressure, no drama, just good company and good connection. It hit me recently that if a man described this life, people would say he's living the dream. Financially secure, unattached, sleeping with someone younger, enjoying his freedom, it's practically a stereotype of male success. But because I'm a woman, I was never encouraged to aspire to this. I was told, subtly and not so subtly, that I'd regret not having children. That I'd be lonely. That I'd miss my chance. That I'd settle down eventually. And yet, here I am. Settled in the best way possible, within myself. I love my life. I love the peace I've created. I love that I can choose connection without dependence, intimacy without obligation. I love that my home is entirely mine. Every inch of it reflects who I am. I just wanted to share this because sometimes it's easy to forget that there are so many valid ways to live a full, rich life as a woman. And sometimes, we end up living the very life that others tried to tell us we weren't supposed to want. Edit, I posted this just over an hour ago, but already so many upvotes and comments. I have to go to bed, I'll look forward to reading responses in the morning, and thank you for all the lovely responses so far. Night all XXX. Stories number 13. My wife returned from a work retreat with a hickey. She swears it's a bug bite, but I'm not convinced. I'm at loss. How do I move forward? I'm 27M, in a fight with my wife, 28F. We've had fights before but not this bad. I'm at a loss on how to proceed. For context, we're college sweethearts married for almost 6 years. We have a daughter, 4F. Our relationship was never perfect or without challenges. We've faced some family opposition with cultural differences, but we've made it work. She's my first love and my best friend. My wife works in corporate. Her job has annual work retreats that last for about a week. This year was in Vegas. I usually arrange my work schedule and tag along with her, and we make our own trip out of it. We couldn't this year. Our daughter gets major anxiety traveling long distances. We're working on it, but she wasn't budging, and we decided to choose our battles. So I stood behind and held down the fort at home. The change of plans was a bummer because the trip was part of us reconnecting as both a couple and as a family. My wife's work hours have taken a toll, and her work-life balance leaves much to be desired. We entertained the idea of her skipping the retreat. Attendance is optional, but it's generally frowned upon if you don't, and my wife's making connections in her field. She grew increasingly weird. We have a system if either of us is away for extended periods. We keep in contact. For the first day or so, she was herself, but she grew distant. I'd even text her about important stuff and be left on read while she claimed she never saw my text. Whenever we talked, she was rushing me or our daughter off the phone. These were all times she wasn't involved in retreat activities. We were supposed to have a mini birthday celebration for our daughter over FaceTime. Our daughter was excited. It was something my wife promised her because the retreat overlapped her actual birthday. But my wife backed out because she had people up to her room after a seminar. It was like she wanted my permission to break her promise to our daughter. I told her I wasn't offering that nor making her keep her word. She said I wasn't being fair, and this was a networking opportunity. They were business-oriented and wouldn't understand her stepping away for family time. I said her decision is her decision, but she'd have to explain it to our daughter. She promised her that she'd rain-check the following day. Our daughter didn't understand and cried. My wife ended up hanging up and leaving me to comfort our daughter alone. That whole incident rubbed me the wrong way. I didn't like it. She didn't keep her word for the rain check either. She was documenting the retreat on social media. One coworker, 23M, was almost in every pic/video attached to her hip. In one pic he had his arm too comfortably around her imo. He's a recent hire in my wife's department. She was asked to oversee him. I don't like the guy. He doesn't know boundaries. Once, in response to a work assignment, he texted my wife that she's exactly the kind of woman he needs to keep him in check. My wife had brushed it off. She feels bad for him because he's not fitting in. She took him under her wing during his first retreat with the team. If I'd questioned, she'd say she was tired or networking. There was always something. But I've seen her at these retreats. This wasn't like her. She was just off. The day before her return home, she complained about a bruise on her neck. She stressed it was a bug bite. I didn't actually see the bruise until she came home. I instantly thought it was a full-on hickey. She kinda brushed it off after making a big deal of it over the phone. I didn't push because our daughter was present, but when I was able to confront her, she clung to her bug bite claim. When I kept pushing, she asked what I was trying to imply. I outright said I believed she had a hickey, and I didn't believe she was being honest with me. We had it out then. She was offended and pissed at the accusation. Infidelity has always been a sore topic. Her family has a history of infidelity, so we had a pretty bad fight, and she accused me of looking to pick a fight due to the incident with our daughter's birthday. I told her it had nothing to do with that and everything to do with a hickey on her neck. The fight ended in an impasse. We're still not recovered. She swears it's a bug bite. But I'm not convinced. I've always trusted my wife. I never doubted her, but this bruise doesn't look like a bug bite. It looks like a hickey. I only feel more strongly when I consider how distant and weird she was during the Vegas retreat. Now she's wearing turtlenecks ever since, and we're caught between arguing and her dousing our daughter and me with affection. Communication usually prevails for us, but not now. I think my accusation pushed us to a new level of argument. I'm at a loss here. I really need outside perspectives. How do I move forward? Comments. Commenter 1. I have been to Vegas and never saw a single bug. It is like dry as fuck, desert-like. Not saying they aren't there, but it's not like she was in the Mayan Riviera. This is all super sus. Don't let her gaslight you. She clearly got a hickey, which is dumb as fuck in itself, probably from the idiot who is too inexperienced to know what he was doing, and preemptively came up with an excuse knowing what it would look like. Out of character behavior. Neglecting her daughter. New young guy hanging off her, that is in photos she knew you could end up seeing, what about what you couldn't see? Eyebrow-raising texts. Commenter 2. I used to travel regularly to Vegas several times a year for about 8 years, worked for the gambling industry. I have never seen a bug anywhere in the vicinity of Las Vegas. What I did see though was a lot of drunks and infidelity. I'm not saying she cheated. But he's right to be suspicious. Commenter 3. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I've never gotten a bug bite that looked like a hickey. Did she show you her phone or provide any proof that could support her innocence or just dismiss you? The extra affection is a common move from guilt-ridden cheaters. Even if we stretch the imagination and believe it is a big bite, she wasn't acting trustworthy nor was she a good mother while it was in Vegas, and she needs to address and correct that. Reply. No, I haven't had access to her phone. We usually have an open phone policy, but it's not something we've ever really done. I'm sure it'll be another argument. Update. I, 27M, wanted to give an update and thank everyone who reached out. The outside perspectives helped. Things are a roller coaster. I'm trying to process. It took a while for my wife, 28F, and me to have any real conversation about the bruise on her neck. We were stuck between arguing and her showering our daughter, 4F, and me with affection. I rarely saw the bruise because she was turtlenecked up. But I did note the healing process from reddish purple to yellow. There wasn't any more discussion about the Vegas retreat. She made it clear she was done talking about it and that she shouldn't need to defend herself to her husband. I told her she could do whatever she wanted, but I was done being treated like an idiot, and I wasn't sharing a bed with someone I couldn't trust. So I moved into the guest room. Communication stopped. The silences were palpable. Even our daughter noticed. I'm not proud of that. I try keeping her out of fights. My wife came to the guest room one night and asked if we could talk. I could tell she'd been crying. She said she hated the way things were between us. She felt she was losing me either way. I told her I needed complete honesty. She confessed she hooked up with that coworker, 23M, on our daughter's birthday. The hickey was from him. She was lost in the heat of the moment and didn't realize he was sucking so hard on her neck. By her account, they made out while doing some on top of the clothes stuff and then he went down on her. It stopped there because he called her by a nickname that I affectionately call her. It snapped her back to the reality of her actions. She went to splash water on her face and saw the hickey. The guy made light of it and made a joke about the hickey being her souvenir. She blew up on him and kicked him out of her suite. Part of the reason she was avoiding me was out of guilt. She said she's coming clean because she doesn't want to hide things anymore. I asked her why she cheated. What was it about that guy she deemed worth risking everything? She claimed it wasn't him specifically, nor is she unhappy with our marriage. She doesn't really know how to explain it, but a part of her feels broken. The more she looks in the mirror, the more she sees her dad, 57M. A cycle of being consumed with work, distant from child, and the infidelity he put her mom, 55F, through. She said her family never talked about anything openly and how when she was growing up, Mile never addressed anything with her. I said her parents didn't make her cheat. She chose to party up with a guy who constantly disrespected our relationship. These were all her decisions, and she at any point could have chosen our family. She agreed. She wants to blame her parents but realizes this is on her. She apologized for cheating and for entertaining the guy's advances. She said she'll do whatever it takes to repair. Go to HR, quit her job, counseling, anything. She wants to make everything right. I told her I don't know what right looks like or if that's possible for us anymore. I knew we had our problems, but I thought there wasn't anything we couldn't talk out. She insisted we still could talk it out. We didn't have to give up on us. She tried giving this rally cry for our relationship, but I felt very numb. I said I didn't recognize her. Not just the betrayal of our vows but also how she treated our daughter. She's like a stranger. She feels she failed as a wife and mom, but she loves us both beyond words and wants our life together and our family intact. I told her I couldn't give her the answer she wanted and thought we needed to separate and reevaluate. She didn't want separation. She felt we should stay together in our home, but I told her a separation was happening. Either she was leaving the home or I was with our daughter. She consented to leaving so as to best not uproot our daughter so much. She asked for our daughter not to be taken away from her. My wife's staying with my in-laws. I know that's difficult in itself because she doesn't have the best relationship with her parents. One of the hardest parts is the shift for our daughter. Right now, she believes her mom's just busy with work per usual. She hasn't questioned it too much. Mile called the other day. She made no excuses for my wife, but she's advocating for us to work through it. She told me times when she heard my wife describe me as the anchor she always wanted. She believes there's something worth fighting for if I'm open. Despite some family opposition we faced throughout our relationship, Mile was always a supporter of us. I'm even more at a loss. I never imagined this kind of betrayal from my wife. She was my safe place. I feel numb yet broken. I'm in love with her. That hasn't changed. But I don't see myself, her, our relationship, or our family the same. Everything's more tense because it's fresh. I think this period of separation is for the best. I'm not sure about divorce. I haven't let myself fully go there. I'm not set either way. I don't know where things go from here, but I'm focusing on our daughter and taking things one step at a time. I feel that's all I can do right now. Thanks again to everyone for the support. It's much appreciated. TLDR Update 4, my wife returned from a work retreat in Vegas with a hickey on her neck. She swears it's a bug bite, but I'm not convinced. I only feel more strongly when I consider how distant and weird she was during the retreat. We're stuck between arguing and her dousing our daughter and me with affection. I'm at a loss. I really need outside perspectives. How do I move forward? Comments. Commenter 1. Do you think she is still trickle-truthing you? How would the coworker know your nickname for her? Good luck onwards. OP. Also think about this part of your comment whenever your wife tells you she is sorry. Cheating on you is one thing, but your wife's behavior towards her daughter is sickening. Yeah, you don't get to disconnect from being a parent, especially to a minor, for extended holidays. You certainly don't ghost them on their birthday and when you promise to do something special for them and got the child excited about it or hang up on them while they're crying. Knit like a boss. I was just on a work trip with a coworker who has a couple of little kids similar in age to OP's. He had arranged his travel times to make it easier on them and went back to the hotel to call them every night. Nothing about how the wife is acting is normal or okay. Commenter 2. They didn't stop until he came inside your wife. You know that, right? Commenter 3. She had plenty of time to craft a story where she was less offensive. He went down on her only. Okay. Commenter 4. Yeah, that's a convenient story. It's bad but offers a glimpse of, oh, it's not so bad, she didn't really do anything to him. That's just not believable to me. Also, the MIL is not your friend here, OP, she's trying to help her child. Again, don't settle for this treatment. Update. Thank you again to everyone. I, 27M, couldn't respond to every message, but everything's appreciated. I wanted to provide an update. Things have been a little chaotic with the new status quo after my wife's, 28F, affair, but I'm taking everything one step at a time. My wife and I explained the separation to our daughter, 4F, in simple, concrete terms and reassured her that we both still love her without going into the reasons behind the separation. Our daughter's always been an observant kid, but I don't think the separation has hit her yet. She doesn't see the difference between her mom not being home and her usual busy with work. During visits, she's more distant towards her mom and clings to me. My wife attempted to play with her on this toy set, but our daughter wasn't having it and shouted at her mom that she didn't want to play with her. The disconnect between my daughter and wife hurts in a way I'm still processing. I knew my wife's work-life balance took its toll. Pre-Vegas, we were supposed to be working on reconnecting, but just how fractured things are is a lot more apparent. Our daughter interacts very little with her mom and becomes quiet around her like she does with strangers. I feel at her age we, as her parents, should be who she's closest with and not this disconnected from her mom. Their dynamic is something I've been reflecting on. My main focus is making sure my daughter's okay through all of this. As far as between my wife and me, she's advocating for us to reconcile. She's expressed she wants to work on our marriage not solely for our daughter but because she loves me. Her rally cries for our relationship are still falling flat for me. I can't give her what she wants right now. I told her I wished she would have given herself these rallies before cheating. She's adamant about the affair timeline and what occurred with the coworker, 23M. They connected because she felt bad he wasn't fitting in. He kept flirting and treating her like royalty. It started feeling good on the rougher workdays. They had an emotional affair even though she didn't label it as such at the time. The EA turned physical during the retreat. She dissociated from her life back home while away in Vegas. She still swears they had sex only once. The hickey came from foreplay, and while giving her oral, he called her my nickname for her, which shook her out of it. She snapped at him about his immature attitude with the hickey and then kicked him out of her suite. She thought she could quietly end things and salvage our marriage. I asked her if she wore her wedding ring during sex with him. She confessed that she did. Knowing this hurts like hell. To me, our wedding rings were a physical symbol of our love, commitment to our vows, and our bond. She tarnished our rings. I haven't been able to wear mine. It never hurts any less. There are just new levels to the hurt. She admits to contributing to blurred lines. She's now changed her number and claims to have cut contact with the coworker. She reported the affair to HR. The company has suspended both of them while they investigate the extent to which the affair impacted the department. Coworker relations violate their policy, and it doesn't look good for my wife in terms of power balance since she was the guy's mentor. They're also calling into question if she gave him favoritism. Some have suggested I reach out to the coworker. I've considered it, but I'm not in a place to. I feel a lot of anger towards him. He knew exactly what he was doing with the hickey and nickname stunt. I wouldn't get anything from him except trouble. He's not worth it. I'm choosing to focus on my daughter. I've chosen to pursue marriage counseling. This isn't under the promise of reconciling but as an assist in working through this separation as healthy as possible for our daughter. I'm still numb in a lot of ways. I never thought this would be how my marriage and family turned out. I've seen it happen to others. I've heard stories. I thought I knew what it was like. But it's nothing compared to dealing with it yourself. I don't feel like the same person anymore. I don't know how everything will pan out. It's an uphill battle, but I'm trying to show up to the battle. It's the best I can do right now. Thank you to everyone who has reached out. I appreciate the support, really. TLDR Update 4, my wife returned from a work retreat in Vegas with a hickey on her neck. She swears it's a bug bite, but I'm not convinced. I only feel more strongly when I consider how distant and weird she was during the retreat. We're stuck between arguing and her dousing our daughter and me with affection. I'm at a loss. I really need outside perspectives. How do I move forward? Comments. Commenter 1. The situation hasn't changed. Your wife lied to you, cheated on you, and made up a pathetic story to try and cover herself when things got too obvious. Her cheating was not a mistake but a series of choices, lies, and deceptions. The way you move forward is by seeing a divorce lawyer and proceeding down that path. There is no happiness left for you in this marriage. I'm sorry, but that's the reality. Commenter 2. I still think she's trickle-truthing OP2. OP, you owe her nothing and how could you ever trust her again? For her work, are you sure he wasn't threatening to out the relationship so she did it first? Could you even verify that she did tell HR? If HR does know, she should be scared because she was a predator. Did she use the phrase disassociate? That's when you mentally remove from trauma, not from missing your daughter's birthday to fuck a coworker. Commenter 3. Not going to lie, super surprised she reported it to work, which gives me some hope. She is willing to torpedo her career, to be honest. However you feel how you feel, and you're handling this pretty well, making sure it's about creating a positive environment for your kid. Marriage and personal counseling are helpful for us to learn how to communicate and ask ourselves how we want to feel. Commenter 4. She claims she told work. For all we know, the dude reported it. New update. Thank you again to everyone who's reached out. I, 27M, wanted to provide an update. Things aren't easy. I don't expect them to be. I don't regret the decision to separate. It was necessary. In many ways, I feel like my hand was forced with the betrayal and all the lies. I'm still finding my footing. I don't put people on pedestals, nor did I ever believe my wife's, 28F, and my relationship was perfect. I just didn't think we'd end up like this after all this time together. While HR were still conducting their investigation on my wife and the coworker, 23M, my wife resigned. Apparently she received pushback. Some of the top brass were pulling for her to stay on. I wasn't too surprised because she's always been a yes employee who gets the job done. She worked with the company back as an intern in college. She said she wants to prove that she's taking every possible action in cutting ties with the guy. I don't know what the investigation result was for him. I don't care, TBH. It's not a concern of mine. We've officially begun marriage counseling. It's a new experience overall. I didn't know what to expect. We're mostly discussing our relationship's journey up to now, the affair, and what we want from counseling. My wife's position on how the affair began remains consistent. She can't really explain it precisely. She wasn't unhappy with me, but a part of her feels broken. The undivided special attention became like a drug to her. The convo kind of shifted to my in-laws, 57M/55F, my wife's family life, and the impact of my FIL's infidelity. She believes she's a reflection of her dad and how she is as both a parent and a spouse. As a parent, she tried convincing herself she was better than him by showering our daughter, 4F, with gifts in light of her lacking presence. As a spouse, she tried convincing herself she was better because the affair wasn't physical pre-Vegas. She thought as long as they didn't do anything physical, then she was better than her dad. That was something she told her affair partner while in Vegas actually. They could hang out as long as it didn't turn physical. I feel like she had so many chances to choose differently. To choose us and our family, but she tossed our daughter and myself to the train tracks. Our relationship wasn't enough to stop her, our wedding rings weren't enough, and our crying daughter wasn't enough. She chose herself every time. She was selfish. She mentions the nickname thing, making her snap back to reality as if it's supposed to make me feel better. It doesn't. I believe she only stopped at oral because she got off and had no more need to go further. I wasn't on her mind. Telling me that I was is like trying to put a band-aid on a gunshot wound. I didn't plan to say half of everything I did, but there was no going back once the door was opened during my turn to talk. She agreed and said she has no excuse for her actions. It's not her parents, it's just her. She swore that she loves me and our daughter and wants to fight for our family. I told her that the "I love yous" felt hollow now. She shut out our daughter and myself to give an intimate part of herself to her coworker. She said she realizes how much larger than just the affair our problems are. She struggles connecting with our daughter and worries about messing her up, so she left the primary caretaking to me. She believes I'm better at it. She said that there's nothing she can say to change anything, but she wants to show change through her present actions. That's some stuff we've dug through in counseling. We're still in the early stages. But I believe it's aiding in communication through separation, which is more healthy for our daughter. Our therapist recommended individual counseling as a complement. It's something I'm seriously researching for myself. Not much has changed with our daughter since the previous update. She still doesn't feel there's a difference between her mom being home or not. I've watched her go from talkative and playful to instantly completely silent when her mom came by. I've scheduled her for play therapy. I don't know what to expect from that either, but I'm hoping for the best. My main goal is being present for her. I know I need to learn how to trust again in general. That's shot right now. Pre-Vegas, I never had a reason to doubt my wife. My trust was something she had as an irreplaceable partner. I've been betrayed before, but this one did a number in a way the others hadn't. I'm trying to stay afloat and focus on what I have rather than what I lost. I can't afford to get lost in myself. Thank you to everyone for the support and for sharing your own experiences. Talking about all this isn't easy for me, but I appreciate the openness. Comments. Commenter 1. It appears you want to make it work with your WW. Do you really believe they only messed around one night? The saying once a cheater always a cheater is so true. Your WW has a character flaw that can't be fixed. I'm sorry, but you and your daughter are going to be better without her. You'll never trust her again, and whatever you had is broken. I wish you and your daughter well. Reply. I haven't chosen reconciliation right now. My focus has been on my daughter and the other fires this situation has caused. Commenter 2. I am curious on the age of y'all and when y'all first met and had your daughter. Only curious because this seems like a similar experience I had with my husband. We met at 19, pregnant at 21, and separated by 23. We had gone our own ways on, and 3 years later we rekindled the relationship. His infidelity fucked with me so bad. I always hope I made the right choice by giving him another opportunity to mend our family. We were young. He was dumb. I was in a hurry. Now that I'm 27, I want to go back and tell myself so many things, but I would then be preventing the creation of my daughter. It hurts the lessons we are taught from our spouses at such young ages. It stings a little more when it's least expected. Maybe taking time to see other people is something she needs to see what she really has. Unfortunately, my husband has to do this to realize I was that woman he was overlooking the entire time before. We are still finding our ground, but we're now almost 2 years into the rekindling. It hasn't been easy, it hasn't been pretty, and man has it taught us both patience and grace when you come back. It takes a special couple to make things work again after seeing other people. One a cheater always a cheater, can be true, but if that cheater does some hard-ass work on themselves and proves it to you, I believe people can change, but only the rarest can. Reply. We were college sweethearts. We met as freshmen. I guess we were still pretty young when everything came together, but I knew I wanted a life with her. Everything had made sense to us. I can relate to what you mean. There are a lot of things I'd tell myself back then. It's kinda strange because I don't look back with regret. I wouldn't have my daughter if I'd chosen a different path. I'm really sorry about your own experience. I think your journey shows an incredible amount of strength. I hope for the best for you and your family going forward. Stories number 14. My husband, 29M, and his family disowned his mom, 56F, after her affair. I, 28M, didn't. Now the emotional consequences are taking a toll on my marriage. Need advice. I'm 28M and I've been with my husband, 29M, for 7 years, married for almost 1. This has been a genuinely good relationship. I love him deeply, and we've built something I'm proud of. He fits in great with my family, and I've always felt at home with his. I'm close with his younger brother and his girlfriend, but the person I've always felt the strongest connection with is his mom. A few years back, I went through a rough depressive episode, and she was one of the only people who truly showed up for me. She didn't treat me like her son's partner, she treated me like family. I've always loved her for that. I'm close with my FIL too, but with my MIL, it always felt like more of a friendship. Then, everything flipped. Just after Christmas, my FIL sat us all down and told us that she had been having an affair, and that it wasn't the first time. He said he tried to make things work, but he couldn't do it anymore. He was heartbroken, and it shattered the whole family. My husband and his brothers were crushed. They all cut contact with her, and she moved out soon after. I get it. Cheating is a betrayal, especially after decades of marriage. I'm not trying to excuse what she did. But I also couldn't ignore the fact that, during one of the worst times in my life, she showed me care and kindness when I felt like I had no one. That stayed with me. A few weeks ago, she reached out to me directly. She said she was running low on rent and didn't know who else to ask. She sounded anxious and desperate. I helped her. It wasn't a huge amount, and she was incredibly grateful. She asked if I'd be willing to meet her for coffee. I said yes. When we met, she broke down. She told me she tried reaching out to her sons, but none of them responded. I listened. I didn't try to defend her or fix anything. I just tried to be there for her, the way she once was for me. Later that evening, I told my husband about it. He completely lost it. He said I betrayed him and went behind his back, and he left the house. The next day, I tried to explain where I was coming from. I told him I wasn't trying to choose sides. I just reacted to someone I care about being in a tough spot. He didn't say much, just told me not to do it again. When his brothers found out, they were disappointed in me too. They said I crossed a line and should have respected their decision to cut contact. Now I feel stuck. I understand why they're upset. I didn't mean to hurt anyone. I just couldn't turn my back on someone who once didn't turn her back on me. I wasn't trying to undermine their pain. I was trying to act with compassion. I'm not here to justify what I did, and I understand why my husband feels hurt. I acted on instinct and compassion in a tough moment, but now I feel like I've damaged something really important. I'd really appreciate advice as to what to do further. How do I navigate this? Top comments. Commenter 1. Where you went wrong is not talking to your husband first before meeting your MIL. No matter if your decision was helping her out, no matter what he said. You should have still let him know first how you feel and why. Going behind someone's back and asking sorry later is not how loving relationships works. Commenter 2. Probably should have talked to your husband first before going behind his back. I get you wanted to help, but he is your partner who is hurting and you deceived him just like his mother. Commenter 3. In this kind of situation, people choose sides. Especially when it's fresh. You have to remember that cutting her out isn't just about them not wanting to see her, it's also about punishing her. That is part of why your husband's family is angry. I won't say whether punishing is right or wrong, ostracism can be very complex. When people in your orbit initiate something like this, your choices are to participate or to not. If you're not participating, then likely to them you are undermining their punishment. I think to your husband, she's his mother, your relationship with her exists through him, so if she is out of his life, he expects her to be out of your life too. I'm sure to you helping her meant that your love for her was stronger than your disappointment in her actions. For people that were more hurt by her actions, it's just going to read like condoning. Unfortunately, we don't really get to choose how our actions impact others. Beyond that, you say you acted on instinct and compassion, but is that true? You make it sound like an involuntary action, that you took her call, met her for coffee where she talked about her songs not responding, and gave her money, all without thinking about how everyone else would feel about it. I don't believe that. I think the first step is owning your actions. You either own them as a choice you made that you deeply regret and wish you could change, or you own them as a choice you would make again in a heartbeat. That means telling your husband either, I regret meeting with your mother, I should have cared more about how it would impact you, or, your mother means too much to me and I'm not willing to cut her out of my life. Then I guess you go from there. There's no way to get out of this without hurting someone. But do remember who created this situation. It wasn't your husband or his brothers. Commenter 4. The difference between your tough time and her tough time is that yours was brought on by mental illness, depression, and hers is the consequences of her own actions, cheating. I get that you wanted to return the compassion she showed you, but you should let sleeping dogs lie. Update. Lost access to my previous account, so posting it from here. I didn't expect my post to gain the kind of traction it did. I genuinely appreciate the advice many of you offered. Some responses were a bit nuclear, understandably, Reddit, but I did take in a lot of perspectives that helped me reflect. I want to share some context that I didn't include in the original post, which I now realize was important. A few years ago, I went through a rough depressive episode. My husband and I were doing long distance at the time, he was working abroad, and while he supported me as best he could, it was hard. His mom was the one who showed up in person. She dropped by often, made sure I was eating, even came with me to therapy a couple of times. It wasn't some grand gesture, but it mattered. That kind of consistency stays with you. So when she reached out a few days ago, anxious and saying she didn't know who else to ask, I just reacted. I helped her with a bit of money, from my personal account, nothing major, and I agreed to meet her for coffee. I didn't tell my husband before doing it, and that was where things really unraveled. He was blindsided. We've always been the kind of couple who talks through the hard stuff, and I acted completely on my own. I see now how that felt like betrayal to him. After a bit of space and some heavy conversations, we talked properly. He told me he'd spoken to his younger brother and finally got the full story about their last attempt to reach out to their mom. It wasn't just an argument, it was bad. She said things that were apparently cruel and deeply personal, the kind of stuff that cuts years deep. I hadn't known any of that. Neither of us had. Hearing it changed something for me. The woman I saw at coffee was warm, vulnerable, even a little lost. But that's not the woman his brother dealt with. And maybe both are real. Maybe she's unraveling. Maybe she's always been complicated. I honestly don't know. What I do know is that my husband's boundaries are valid. He told me clearly that he's not ready to reconnect with her, and that he's not comfortable with me being in touch with her either. And after hearing what I've heard, I understand that. I've told him I'm stepping back. If she does reach out again, I'll tell her that I can't be the person in the middle, not unless something genuinely shifts between them first. We both apologized. He for shutting down so quickly, me for making a decision without him when I shouldn't have. We're okay now. I still think there's something more going on with her, emotionally, maybe even mentally. She's been a stay-at-home mom most of her life, her siblings live abroad, and from what I've heard, she's already asked her friends for help before coming to me. That doesn't excuse anything, but it does make me think about how lost she might be right now. Still, that's not something I can fix. Right now, my focus is on us. I can care about what his mom did for me in the past and still recognize that she's hurt people I love. This whole situation has been messy and a bit surreal. We didn't walk away from it with everything fixed, but we've come out of it with a better understanding of where we each stand. We handled it the best we could, and at the end of the day, we're still solid. Still, I can't lie, there's a part of me that feels pulled toward who she was for me during that rough time. Letting go emotionally feels messier than I expected. How do you emotionally let go of someone who was once there for you, when the situation clearly calls for distance? Top comments. Commenter 1, couples resolving issues like adults, talking them out and listening to each other, is always nice to see in an update. Commenter 2, I think your comment about, maybe she's always been complicated, is probably spot on. Most people are complex, and you only see the side they allow you to. Commenter 3, tough situation for sure. In the end, you only knew the part of her she was willing to show you. Her compassion when you needed a friend was undeniable. However, there seems to be a lot more about her that you truly don't know and probably never will. You tried to support her in a similar way that she supported you. That part is now done. And while you may not think of it as being in the same meaningful way, it was for her. Let it go and feel good about being compassionate to her, but let your husband and his family dictate any further involvement. Best wishes. Commenter 4, this is a healthy update and brave of you to recognize that the person you knew, who helped you, and the person who caused a lot of hurt are not mutually exclusive. They are both capable of existing at the same time, and they both come with their own type of grief in a situation like this. Reconciling the love and esteem you have for someone who fundamentally supported you through darkness is so challenging in light of them creating that darkness for someone else, many someones, really. Do you think maybe some therapy might help you short-term in processing these feelings? I commend you and your husband both for communicating and giving each other grace during this. It's easy to lose sight of things when we are fraught and emotionally charged. You both came together, created space and acknowledgement for one another, and came to the resolution you have now. However fragile it feels, it's still progress. Things will become easier with time and a little bit of distance from it. Good job. Stories number 15. Aita for letting my grandparents throw my dead dad in my mom's face. My dad died 6 years ago. I, 17M, was 11. My mom started dating a year later and she met husband number 2 within a few months. He was a single dad with a 4-year-old son at the time, and because he wanted his son to have a mom they moved fast and got married within a year, and my mom was pregnant a few months later. My mom has 2 bio kids with her husband now, and she calls her stepson her son and he calls her mom. I don't know why, but a few weeks ago my mom made this big deal out of giving each of the other kids something that had been my dad's. It was nothing huge, but I didn't like it and told mom she shouldn't give dad stuff away like that and it should be just for his family. Mom told me they were his family in spirit and I said that was bullshit. She told me and my sister, 19F, will get most of it, and why would I hate my younger siblings getting something? I said they're not dad's kids and why would anyone think it was normal? She told me I was overreacting and she said they're stuff anyone could own. I said it wasn't the point. Those were dad's things. I said dad didn't know them, and did she ever think it would feel gross to give the kids who only exist in our lives because he's gone some of his stuff? She told me to never speak like that and I told her it's true. 2 wouldn't be born and 1 would be a stranger still if dad hadn't died. Mom punished me for saying that. My sister was so mad when she found out that she came home from college just to pack up her share of dad's stuff, and she told mom not to speak to her. Mom told her she was being unreasonable and to try and understand what she was doing. My sister told her she was so weird and it showed what she thought of us when she did it without finding out if we'd be okay with it. We both told our dad's parents about it. They were shocked and they assumed we'd picked mom up wrong. So they came and asked mom if it was true and she said yes. She said it was only small stuff, but they're all her kids and dad is still one of her husbands, and her husband was cool with it because they weren't sentimental things. Grandma grew more upset because one of the things mom gave away was a stuffy grandma's mom bought dad before she died. Dad was only just born at the time. So it meant a lot to grandma. She told mom she had always wanted it left in the family and that mom had always said me and my sister would get our choice of stuff and then them before anything else was disposed of or given away. She said she had refused to let us do it until now, and yet she'd give them away anyway. Mom said they stayed in the family and my grandparents exploded. They told her that my dad would be disgusted with what she did and they hoped she liked disrespecting her first husband and the kids she had with him, because that's exactly what she did. Then they called mom a liar and said it was awfully convenient that she pulled a stunt like this. My mom got upset and she told them to leave. She told them throwing dad in her face like that was uncalled for. When they were gone she turned to me and asked me how I could let them do that to her. I told her they weren't wrong in my opinion and if I could ignore her like my sister is right now I would. My mom demanded an apology a few days ago for letting it happen. Aita. Stories number 16. My entitled sister didn't buy winter clothes for her kids, and I had to buy them so they wouldn't freeze. We made sure my ex-BL got the kids not long after. Just to preface, my ex-BL did take the kids away from my sister. She's a narcissist, and a master manipulator. And probably would have had no problem lying in court to get her way, were it not for the potential evidence against her being so overwhelmingly bad. Her ex took the kids and didn't bring them back once he was positive she couldn't do a damn thing about it, and soon the court gave him majority custody. My sister only gets to see her kids about 2 days a month and some holidays. This particular incident goes back to winter 2023, before my sister was evicted from the family property. At that time her boyfriend had recently died in a car accident that quite possibly wasn't an accident. Technically she'd just broken up with the guy because he'd cheated on her, and she repeatedly cried to me that she's not a cheater herself. Which is an outright lie, as she had 3 affairs that we know of, while still married to her ex-husband. And she still thinks I don't know. But by that time, she was barely home 2 nights a week. My parents and I were the ones taking care of and paying to feed her kids, because she wasn't coming home to feed them. She'd call her kids and ask them what they wanted for dinner, and then wouldn't even show up. Our mother got mad at her and over text told her she'd abandoned her children. And my sister verbatim answered back, LOL. No, I didn't. She never grew out of her teenage mentality. Even after having 3 kids and her husband joining the military to better support them, she was still acting like a teenager. My mother and I got in touch with my ex-BL to tell him everything, because my sister had her kids so brainwashed that they didn't tell him much until he made them tell him everything. And any good clothes my nephews had, they would only keep at their father's house because they didn't want them torn up by the dogs or smelling like dog feces. I found out my nephews had no winter clothes at my sister's trailer because my youngest nephew woke me up on an early November morning to ask for a ride to school because he'd missed the bus. And he was at my door in 39 degrees shivering in nothing but a t-shirt and shorts, and his shoes were falling apart. I asked him where his coat was, and he said he didn't have one anymore. While I was driving him to school, I told him I was going to buy him a coat. And he literally said, I am and not that sea cold. And I said, dude. I'm looking at you shivering right now. His shoes were so bad, he could barely walk in them. He had to do this limp forward moonwalk shuffle because the bottoms of his shoes were coming apart. I superglued them back together that night. And the next day I went out and bought him a coat at a thrift store, and he was wearing it to school right away. Then on the weekend, I took him out clothes shopping and practically bought him a whole wardrobe. He didn't even have decent socks. He was having to use socks from his brothers, and even his mother. I bought him socks, then I took him to a certain thrift store with great prices and bought him a pair of good black sneakers, 2 or 3 long-sleeved shirts, 2 sweatshirts, 3 pairs of pants because he had nothing but summer shorts, and a pair of gloves and a knit cap. We rushed everything into the washing machine, and he was wearing that stuff to school that Monday. The following weekend I took my middle nephew out and bought him new socks too, as well as about the same amount of thrift store clothes. He still wears the green hoodie I got for him back then. I bought him several pairs of pants, several shirts and sweatshirts, and a big thick coat, which he really liked. And he was wearing that stuff ASAP too. The only thing he didn't need was shoes. I'm on a fixed income, and this was not very long before Thanksgiving and Christmas. But I spent about $200 on clothes for those kids because they needed it. My eldest nephew was already living with his dad full-time, so he was fine. I also lent my youngest nephew a Timber Ridge camping cot, just so he'd have a decent bed. His tiny room in the trailer had a couch bed previously, but moisture and dogs just destroyed it. I also bought the kid a sleeping bag because he wasn't sleeping well due to the cot getting cold on the underside. I ended up getting blankets and pillows for both of those kids. And after my sister was evicted, we cleaned out the trailer and found out she not only had a brand new sleeping bag in storage, she also had a hoard of unused blankets hidden under her bed. Oh, we were so mad. She let her kids be cold when she had that stuff the whole time. The summer of 2023, all 3 of my nephews were allowed to live around the yard in tents. Which they found preferable to living in the trailer with their mom, her boyfriend, and the stinky dogs. I ran power cords from my house to all 3 of their tents, and got all 3 of those kids fans and ice coolers, and lent 2 of them camping cots to sleep on. And I also let the eldest stay in my camper trailer from time to time. When telling people this stuff, the first words out of their mouths are usually, "You're a good uncle." Meanwhile, my sister was busy drinking, partying, doing drugs, fighting with her POS boyfriend, and making trouble for all of us. We worked in secret with my ex-BL to make sure those kids were safe, and he took them that December. And then he took my sister back to court. And before anyone points it out, I and my parents are very remorseful for not taking action sooner. But my sister had us all mentally beat down. She's a chronic manipulator that makes up stuff, and then spreads lies. She had people all over the area believing the stuff she said about our parents. My parents couldn't go out to the local restaurant without getting side glances from people. But after we kicked out my sister, all of that stopped. She was poisoning everyone against our parents, and she wonders why we had enough of her. Stories number 17. Do men really avoid dating single moms? Aita, 1K plus comment. Insane. Thank you all for the kind words and comment. I would like to mention I'm not looking for someone to replace her dad. I'm not bored or on a hookup binge. I'm just a normal woman that had a bad life situation happen and I want to find my person eventually and am scared to start that journey. I am a 30F single mom. I am getting back into dating. It's nerve-wracking because I always hear the stigma that men won't date single moms. I had to leave an abusive relationship and being a single mom was never my plan. I had my child with my ex after years of being together. I didn't baby trap someone or get pregnant with someone super quick. I thought this person would be the person I married and it just was not it. It makes me terrified to date again because I feel like no matter how much I may bring to the table outside of that or how amazing of a kid I have, it's going to make dating incredibly hard. I don't want someone to feel like they need to replace her father, who is very active in her life. Curious how men actually feel about this. Stories number 18. Aita for not stopping my husband from getting the paternity test. My husband recently asked me for a paternity test. Why? Because our son looks nothing like him. I never cheated on him. I would never. He knows he was my first and only partner. I told him he can have the test. Who am I to stop him from it? He took the test and found out our son is actually his and he seemed very happy. I told him congrats. Now you are sure it's your own son you are paying child support for. He asked what does that mean and I told him if he thinks I cheat on him then we truly shouldn't be married. I took my son and left and we are currently staying in a hotel and I'm going to get divorced. He keeps calling and texting and begging me to come back but I don't want to. He said if I had such a problem with the test then I should have stopped him instead of allowing it and then, acting like a bratty child and ruining our lives. I'm not sure how I'm the one ruining our lives. He is the one who thinks I'm a cheater, he should be happy he doesn't have to live with a cheater anymore. Stories number 19. I've been hiding a huge secret from everyone in my life for the past 3 years. I pretended to graduate college. I walked across the stage, wore the cap and gown, had the family celebration, took pictures holding a fake diploma cover, the whole thing. But I never actually finished my degree. One semester before graduation, I just cracked. I was burnt out, failing a couple of classes, and too ashamed to tell anyone. So instead of facing it, I faked it. I told my parents everything was on track. I bought a cheap gown online, faked the graduation date, and made sure the ceremony wasn't open to guests due to limited capacity. Since then, I've been working random jobs, telling people I'm between offers or exploring different fields. It's a constant weight on me. I've had panic attacks just thinking about someone finding out. My parents still proudly mention that I'm the first in the family with a degree. I hate lying to them. I hate lying to everyone. I've finally re-enrolled and I'm taking night classes now, slowly fixing the mess I made. But it still feels like I'm living in a lie. I don't know if I'll ever have the guts to tell them what really happened. Stories number 20. Aita for leaving my best friend's wedding right before I was supposed to give a speech and texting her husband after the wedding causing them to get a divorce. Context. First, I have severe anxiety so I take anxiety medicine to stop the panic attacks from happening. Second, when you take anxiety medicine your body gets used to that normal feeling of not having anxiety so when you stop taking it your anxiety hits you like a truck. Third, me, the bride and the groom were childhood best friends so they both wanted me to give a speech at the reception. A week before the wedding my friend, let's call her Kate, puts everyone invited to the wedding into a group chat to say drugs weren't allowed at the wedding. This made sense to me because I know she has family that struggles with addiction so I ignored it because obviously my medicine wasn't included in this rule. Fast forward to the wedding day I made sure to take my medicine with me so I wouldn't make scene at the wedding and actually do the speech I prepared. An hour later Kate pulled me to the side and asked if I bought my medicine. I told her yes of course I couldn't do the speech without them. Kate, are you crazy? I said no drugs at my wedding that includes prescription medicine. Me, you know I have anxiety. Kate, well I thought you would suck it up for me, I'm your best friend. Me, are you serious? You know that's not how it works. Kate, it's my wedding. After a few minutes of taking I finally told her fine, I'll get rid of them, but I can't do the speech then. She reluctantly accepted before walking away visibly upset. After a while of enjoying the wedding I could feel my medicine wearing off, so I started hanging out in the background by the food table far away from everyone. 10 minutes before the speeches were about to start she announces names of people who were going to give the speeches. To my surprise she still called out my name and even went as far as saying, my best friend Casper is going to give a speech first because she knows how much she means to me and the groom. My heart started to pound out my chest as people started to look at me, so I ran to the bathroom. I locked myself in the wheelchair stall and proceeded to have the worst panic attack I've had to this day. I calmed myself down enough to drive myself home. Which was a 3-hour drive, mind you. When I got home it was really late. I was sitting in my thoughts when I remembered the groom had a sister who struggles with mental health like I do, so I texted him about why I didn't do the speech and what Kate said to me about sucking it up. As much as this was about me being petty, it was also about how I didn't want his sister to have to go through what I went through with Kate. Some part of me was worried, what if Kate forced his sister to do something without her medicine and she gets hurt. The very next afternoon I get texts from her family that I'm close with, that I'm an AH for leaving Kate when she needed me the most. Kate texted me later that night saying, you always wanted him, didn't you? I asked her what she was talking about. She told me that he asked for a divorce. I told her I just showed him who you really were and then hung up. Me and the groom are still good friends, but I haven't seen Kate in 2 years now. When I go through my pictures of all three of us together I sometimes wish that we could have worked things out. So am I the a-hole? Stories number 21. AIO husband refusing to give me a break so I could shower. So I'm gonna preface this by saying my husband is normally great, he's a super involved father and we've never had an issue like this before. Like ever. I'm a Psalm, so while I am in charge of most childcare he always takes care of things for me when he's off. So today the fam was all flying out because my daughter has a dance competition Saturday and we decided to make a mini vacation out of it. The plan was I fly out this morning with my 3-year-old and newborn and he would fly out with the teenager and 8 years old when they got out of school. So everything with that went well, but I was exhausted after flying with a tot and a newborn. As soon as husband got here and got settled, I asked could he take the newborn for a few minutes so I could shower and relax. I just finished feeding her so I wasn't worried about her getting hungry or anything. He said no and that he had to go. I asked him again and where, and he just said he was going out because he'd had a long day. I mentioned how flying with 2 nearly self-sufficient kids wasn't nearly as hard as my day, plus I'd been entertaining them since we got there. He got mad, left anyway, and so now I'm here with 4 kids. My lovely 14 years old said he could keep an eye on my newborn long enough for a shower. I wasn't worried about this, I thanked him, and now I'm in the bathroom typing this out. My husband texted and said I shouldn't have needed a break because today was easy, but I disagree. AIO at how he reacted. Stories number 22. Single moms should pick better men. Single moms should pick better men. Okay, well I thought I did pick a good man. He was a good one for a while, then he wasn't. Then he was mean and cruel. So I left. I'm so exhausted by raising kids on my own. On one income with only myself to bring them up correctly. I never make enough money, not enough time to further my education. Not enough mental energy to even try. And I refuse to date. I don't trust myself to pick the right one, and I refuse to bring someone into their life and have them leave. I'd rather be alone. I'd rather work every day off, but I'm so tired I accept my mistake and I pay the consequences, but I'm so tired. Stories number 23. I lied to my coworker about the cupcakes in the break room. My coworker can't eat cupcakes because she just got diagnosed with Crohn's disease and is on an elimination diet. But she loves to eat. She sounded very sad when she warned me that there were cupcakes in the break room, so I lied and told her they sucked and were dry and the icing was crusty, but they were perfectly delicious. I even mentioned in passing to another coworker eating cupcakes, who is also aware of her stomach issues, to tell her they sucked. She later told me that she felt better knowing they weren't that good because she couldn't eat them, but they were good. I feel bad lying and roping someone else into it. Stories number 24. No, that brother is dead. 7 years ago, today is actually the anniversary. That's what inspired me to post. My 18F, 3 younger brothers and my mom were involved in a nasty car accident that left my oldest and youngest brothers in the children's ICU at a level 1 trauma center. My oldest brother, 16M, was awake and alive but had several broken bones in his legs that required surgery. My middle brother 15M and my mom were relatively, physically, unharmed, but my youngest brother 11M was severely injured and unfortunately never woke up from the coma he was in for 4 weeks. This all happened in a very small town of about 1,000 people, so everyone knew what was going on, and when my youngest brother eventually passed away everyone knew that too. Well, almost everyone. The story. Several weeks after he passed, my oldest brother and I went out to the local Hobby Lobby for whatever reason. We were walking through the aisles when the mom of one of the girls I was in high school with came up to us. The dialogue is as follows. Lady, oh my goodness OP, I'm so glad that your brother isn't brain dead anymore and is up and walking around. Me, that brother died. This is the other one. Lady, crickets, OMG I'm so sorry. Random lady turns beet red and practically sprints away. I know she had good intentions, but my goodness it isn't as good of a story as some of the others on this sub, but I giggle whenever I think about the absurdity. That time in my life was crazy enough as is, and sometimes you just gotta laugh when you feel like crying. Stories number 25. Scammer couldn't hang up fast enough. Another story reminded me of this incident. It's the only time I ever got a scammer to leave me alone. Obligatory context, I was going through a really hard period of time when this took place. Honestly the worst period of my life. Things are much better for me now and I have a life I love. I'd been plagued by a scammer who seemed to call every 2 hours on my days off. I'd been at work this day, but as I was unlocking the door I heard my phone start going. I dashed to pick it up because I was waiting for news from my parents about my unwell baby nephew. Scammer, hello, is this Scottish Vix? I'd had a terrible day and the last thing I needed was this scammer calling all evening. I burst into tears. Me, I'm sorry. She passed away last night. Did you know her well? Click. I never got another scam call for the whole time I was in that house.